Good evening. The time is 6 o'clock p.m. Welcome to your Pontiac City Council meeting. We give the floor now to Councilman William Parker, Jr. to introduce this evening's invocation.
Good evening, Brother President. Thank you so much. And before I start, I just want to thank everyone for your prayers and condolences on the loss of my sister last week. And thank you for your prayers, and thank you for allowing me the privilege of being able to go and celebrate with my family the homegoing of my sister. This evening, we are blessed to have our invocation given to us by our own Pastor Emeritus Kathy Desreau.
Somebody asked me why we open each meeting with prayer. And doesn't one of our faiths offend the other one? And we are in a time in our country and in our lives where we need our God. I recognize that we all have a different faith. But when we as ministers come up to pray, we're praying for all of us. I don't care what your faith is when I'm not in the pulpit, but I care that you serve God. And we need God right now. And so that's why we pray all of the government meetings open with a chaplain saying prayer. And we're no different than any other government meeting. This is still a federal government meeting. Just happens to be our government. So don't be offended. We ask that you bow your heads in prayer. Father, we thank you as always for another opportunity to come together, to try to bring the city together, to try to honor the ancestors that have gone before us and all that they've done to create this city. And Father, we ask that you would be with us today, as always. We thank you for the sunshine. We thank you for the warmth. We thank you that the snow is going away. But Lord, we thank you for this meeting. We thank you that we live in a country where we are free to disagree and to bring unity out of all of that. We ask you tonight that you would bring unity again, that we would be kind to one another, and that we would give you all the glory, for we ask it in the name of our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States, or stay rising.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We now have a moment of silence as a community, remembering those that have recently passed away. Those that have recently been brought to our attention, those neighbors who have recently passed are, in alphabetical order, Gino Alexander, Marguerite Baer, Claudie Dillon, Tamiko Hay, Sharon Kennebrew, Lynette Munson, Lucy Simpson, Radith Sparks, Margaret Stamps, and Anthony Walker. Please join us as a community for a moment of silence in their honor. Thank you. Additionally, before we begin tonight's meeting's proceedings, I'd like to read a brief statement on behalf of the City Council. Pontiac City Council members and our citizens have seen the recent news coverage and heard the body camera recordings from a former Oakland County Sheriff deputy as they were conducting a search and a welfare check on a woman and her children who were outside and in the extreme cold over 2 years ago. What that deputy did not yet know was that the mother and 2 of her children would soon freeze to death. We understand that this deputy is no longer on the force and that surviving family members are suing the Sheriff Department for damages. The existence and content of this recording, the status of the deputies involved in various searches, and this lawsuit from the family are all new information to the City Council. We await and will pursue additional answers and information on this front. The taxpayers of Pontiac contract for police and protection services from the Oakland County Sheriff Department. And there are many instances of how those contracted services have served the community well and led to swift apprehension of criminal suspects. By contracting for those police services, we are placing a great deal of trust and a lot of resources into this county agency. And because we are contracting for those services does not mean that the humanity of those living in Pontiac should be shortchanged. Our residents deserve compassion, respect, and attentive service, and that includes those of our neighbors who may be battling mental health challenges. The jarring and heartbreaking outcome of this incident is part of what has spurred the City Council then and now to place a high priority on plans of action and coordinating resources for extreme weather emergencies. This is an ongoing policy challenge and one that this City Council will keep pursuing. But we are talking about real human beings here whose lives were lost, and we would like again to call for an additional moment of silence remembering Monica Kennedy and her 2 sons who needlessly lost their lives over 2 years ago. Please join us for a second moment of silence. Thank you. Roll call, Deputy Clerk Starks.
Carrington.
Present.
Goodman. James.
Here.
Jones.
Present.
McGinnis.
Present.
Parker.
Here.
Rutherford.
Quorum being established, we anticipate Councilman Goodman will be joining shortly. Councilman Rutherford has contacted council leadership and requested to be excused from this evening's meeting for personal reasons. Could I please have a motion to excuse Councilman Rutherford for personal reasons?
So moved.
Support.
It's been moved by Councilwoman Jones, seconded by Councilman Parker, to excuse Councilman Rutherford from this evening's meeting for personal reasons. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Deputy Clerk on the motion.
Carrington.
Yes.
James.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
5 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. Is there a motion to approve this evening's agenda?
So
Moved by
moved.
Carrington.
Support.
It's been moved by Pro Tem Carrington, seconded by Councilman Parker to approve this evening's agenda. One potential change I would like to prompt a motion to amend is adding a final resolution to the consent agenda. That would be a resolution celebrating Quest All-Star Athletics, and we would also be striking the 3rd special presentation and replacing it with presenting the resolution celebrating Quest All-Star Athletics. Pontiac United Black History Month will still be presenting their contest winners, but they've requested to do that next week. It wasn't ready for tonight.
So moved.
All right. It was moved by Councilwoman Jones and seconded by
So moved. Support.
Councilman Parker to amend the agenda to make those changes. Any discussion on those changes?
President, I have one more amendment.
Okay.
I'd like to add a discussion item, or is this the appropriate time for that?
Let's do a vote on that one and then bring that up as the next motion to amend. Since we have a motion and a second to make that change, hearing no further discussion, roll call Deputy Clerk on making those additions to the agenda.
James.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
Carrington.
Yes.
5 yeas, no nays.
Okay, that motion carries and the agenda is amended. Next amendment proposal, Councilwoman James.
Yes, I'd like to add a discussion item to provide an update for the excessive streetlight outages that we have in District 4, maybe other districts, but specifically District 4.
Councilwoman James moves to add a discussion on excessive street light outages in the Pontiac community. Is there a second?
Moved by Carrington. Support by Carrington.
Okay, it's been moved by James, seconded by Carrington. Any discussion or clarity? Hearing none, roll call Deputy Clerk on the proposed discussion addition.
Jones.
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
Carrington.
Yes.
James.
Yes.
5 yeas, no nays.
All right, that amendment carries. Any further discussion or amendments? Hearing none, roll call Deputy Clerk, on the agenda as amended.
James.
Yes.
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
Carrington.
Yes.
5 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. The agenda as amended is approved. We're now at consent agenda. Is there a motion to adopt tonight's consent agenda?
So move with a change to remove number H, because we're going to read that one, I believe.
It's okay for us to adopt it, and then we'll just read it during the special presentation if you don't object.
Not a problem.
Okay. So Councilman Parker moves to approve the consent agenda, and
second.
Councilwoman James seconds. Here's what's in tonight's consent agenda. We'll go through quickly for you. The Parks, Recreation, and Public Works Subcommittee of the City Council's meeting minutes from February 21st. The Facility and Property Subcommittee meeting minutes from February 28th. The City Council special meeting minutes from March 4th, including the closed session. The regular City Council meeting minutes from March 4th. The resolution scheduling a special City Council meeting for next Tuesday, March 18th at 5 p.m. for a closed session. We'll still have our regular meeting at 6 p.m., but this will be a special meeting for the purposes of holding the closed session early so it doesn't impact the ability for the meeting to keep going at the regular time. F, resolution approving the annual Microsoft 365 licensing agreement. G, resolution approving Gary Bernstein Health Clinic charitable gaming license request. It's an annual request for them to run fundraising that has a charitable gaming license that requires City Council approval from the city with which they're located. H, resolution honoring the community impact of Clyde Kemp. And I, resolution celebrating Quest All-Star Athletics. With that, roll call, Deputy Clerk, on the consent agenda items.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
Carrington.
Yes.
James.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
5 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. The consent agenda items are approved. We're now at special presentations. The first, we just have adopted that resolution honoring Mr. Clyde Kemp. If he's in the room presently, he isn't. So without objection, I'm going to move to the next special presentation, reminding the city that we have a mother-son dance happening on March 30th at Lafayette Grand. The City of Pontiac's youth recreation programs presenting that mother-son dance. Want to encourage Pontiac community members to sign up to participate. Any discussion on that special presentation? Pro Tem Carrington.
Yes, just a quick statement of the residents that resides in the 6th District. I'm actually will sponsor 5 couples, a mother and son, to go to that event.
Very good. And the daddy-daughter dance that was done by Tanisha Stevens and the team with Youth Recreation and some of you in the room, fantastic event, and we want to make sure that community members, oh, there you are, can participate. So that was the mother-son dance. We were just reminding people that's that. All right, now we move on to the next special presentation, presenting the resolution honoring reading the resolution celebrating Quest All-Star Athletics. This has just been adopted by the City Council celebrating you. City of Pontiac resolution celebrating Quest All-Star Athletics. Whereas Quest All-Star Athletics was started in Pontiac, Michigan in 2008 by Pontiac native Tanisha Stevens, who has grown her dream of a Pontiac-based cheer and dance company into a thriving business enterprise. And whereas Quest All-Star Athletics has consistently represented Pontiac well, rising to become a national championship team and even won on the international stage, and through the years, thousands of young athletes between ages 3 and 19 taking part in various clinics, camps, classes, and teams. And whereas this year the team is celebrating their Sweet 16 season, and the coaches, parents, family members, and volunteers have through every season reinforced Quest's focus of teamwork, discipline, structure, and family. Now therefore be it resolved, the Pontiac City Council, in partnership with Mayor Tim Greimel, hereby celebrates Quest All-Star Athletics and their many championships, and commends all past and present student athletes on the team for their impressive accomplishments. And further resolved, on behalf of the entire Pontiac community, the City Council appreciates and celebrates the vision and tenacity of Ms. Tanisha Stevens for her establishing the successful Quest All-Star Athletics operation. And further resolved, the City Council encourages Pontiac residents to celebrate Quest's Sweet 16 season and their recent championship wins by our talented Pontiac students, as well as the strong legacy of Pontiac's championship cheer and dance teams through the years. With all members of the City Council and the Mayor of Pontiac on today's date, this has now been adopted and added to the city's record. Give a round of applause to the dynamic Quest All-Star effort. And now, without further ado, we'd like to give the podium to the force behind Quest's establishment, Tanisha Stevens. Give her a hand.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for this honor. To our council, to our administration, just thank you. We are honored for that. It's not even really about me, but it's about the youth in the community that work so hard and diligently every week, and they go all over and represent the city of Pontiac. And so, again, if they could come up behind me, would be great. Come up so people can see you. Quest, get up. Come over here. Come behind. So I want everyone at home and here to see these young ladies, although we do take young men as well, but these young ladies work really hard. And so, as President McGinnis said, they have won many national championships as well as international championships. So we're truly, truly proud of these young athletes and their parents and their families for trusting the process and believing in us and representing the city of Pontiac. Thank you. Quest Athletics. Yay. Okay.
Any shout outs to your fellow team members, parents?
Yes. Again, shout out to all of our parents because they trust the process and they entrust me with their precious jewels, and I appreciate that. And then also, I could not do this without our coaching staff. We have present Madison Durham. I seen her come in the room, and the director, Brianna Stevens-Taylor. So you guys can join me as well if I see you. There you go. There's Coach Maddie.
Okay.
This way, Coach Maddie, and Coach Bray. So,
All right.
there's that. Thank you.
All right, so we're going to present the resolution to you. We'll come up here, so whoever wants to cluster up there, it'll be a unique and crowded photo op for those that want to take the photo. But this is something in the record from the city of Pontiac added to the history books. But Quest continues to make history. We celebrate you today and always. Bless you.
Thank you. So you guys can go up if you want to take a picture. So go up. So see you guys get that. You're going to go up around them and take a picture. And go up, and you're going to go with them. So go up. Go ahead, so you can take a picture. Go, baby. Go ahead. You take a picture. Y'all can take a picture. Y'all take a picture. I don't have to. I'm good. Hurry up, baby. Move fast. Expedition.
Just if you had like a coat on.
Yes, ma'am.
No, I want to take this one.
Give me your phone and go up there.
All right, all right. Make sure you get a video too.
Wait, you want it on Snap?
Get a video and a picture.
I'm about to get to start the video now.
My camera?
Yeah, you see what she... Oh.
audience to allowing your chairs to be shifted to make that excellent crowd work.
President McGinnis, can I just have a word? Oh, they're getting ready.
Councilman James, you have the floor.
Yeah, I just wanted to let the girls know that you guys are really wearing those uniforms. You look great. I saw you at the Christmas parade. You danced beautiful, and we just want to congratulate you again for the great job that you're doing, but you look great.
We'll have a 30-second recess to allow anyone else that wishes to exit the room. You can keep celebrating, but you just might want to do that either downstairs so that way the roar of your excitement doesn't overpower the meeting.
Oh, you're so cute.
All right, and when Mr. Kemp joins us, then we can present that resolution later on this evening. Okay. We are now at public comment, an opportunity for residents to speak. Pro Tem Carrington, any requests tonight?
Yes, Mr. Marcus Bowman.
Microphone.
All right, there we go. Almost caught me off guard. Good evening, everybody, today. I just want to say I'm grateful to be here today, grateful to be alive, and it's a blessing to be here, and I think we all should take advantage of that. A lot of people have been losing their lives every day. To hear about devastating things happening in our city is it's heartbreaking. I'm here on behalf of MIP 100 to just make an announcement based off our meeting that we just had this past weekend. I'd be remiss if I wouldn't thank the council members for showing up, Councilwoman Jones, President McGinnis, and Councilman Parker for supporting what we're doing and supporting what we have going on. We talked about a lot of great things, had a few candidates, which I know we can't talk about that, but we did have a few candidates and we got some information spread and some information shared. So I think that was a good look for us and a good look for the community. And I also wanted to say happy belated National Women's Day. This was our Women's Day event as well, so I thank the women that showed up as well. The Vice President of the school board showed up. A few other local members, Alexandria Riley was there. So it was a pretty good event for us and a pretty good turnout. So I just wanted to address the community and let them know things are still moving forward, things are still going great. Excuse me. And I also wanted to say this is a season where we need to be aware of mental health. Mental health is just, it's running rapid in our community, and we have to do something about it to address it. Check on your people, check on your friends, check on your family. Make sure that we are taking care and being mindful of how we approach people. Sometimes you don't know what another person is going through. Just to, piggyback off of the incident with the Oakland County Sheriff, we don't want to beat up our service individuals, but a lot of them aren't equipped for some of the things that they have to deal with socially. So we have to have a tad bit of compassion as well, but we also have to approach these situations with tact and a severe, the word I'm looking for is a severe, straightforward mentality when it comes to attacking these issues of homelessness. We have a lot of it in our community, and it's running rapid, and we need to make sure that we stay on top of that. It's a lot of homelessness in the school district that we don't know about. The kids are homeless, and parents are kicking the kids out of their houses and things of this nature. So we need to bring more awareness. So I'm bringing this to the council, and hopefully you all can bring some more awareness to this, as you have been doing as such. But we need to scream a little louder so we won't have these things happening constantly, people freezing. I remember the first event when I had to find somebody in my backyard, unfortunately, frozen to death. And that's not something that you want to go through. You don't want to have to look somebody in their eyes and see a dead body. So let's bring some attention to that and focus on some mental health awareness in our community and continue to uplift each other. I want to thank you all for your time and thank you for this opportunity. God bless you all. God bless Pontiac.
Thank you, Mr. Bowman. Ms. Ruth Ramsey.
Good evening, Council. Good evening, Mayor. I just have a couple of things. First of all, I just wanted to know whether or not MDOT and the, can you hear me? And the warehouse, if they're paying taxes. I just wanted to know if that was happening. And then the other question is the sale of Pontiac's resources, like everything. When the guy came down from Lansing, he took everything from us, even our cleanups, the brooms or whatever. They took everything from us. We don't have any resources. And I wonder whether or not they still have inspections for property owners and that like that. Because this city is, I'm sorry, it's a mess. The holes in the roads. We don't even have people that works for the city that can fill the holes. That's just, this city has never looked like this. I've been here all my life, and it's pitiful the way this city looks. And it's just needs to be a change. It needs to be a change, and just do it. Get it back. If you have to go back to Lansing and talk with the governor, let's do that. Because we don't have anything. Nothing, period. And I'm ashamed of this city now. I used to have friends coming from everywhere. This is a nice little city. This is a nice city. But now it's tore up. You can't even go a block without getting in a pothole. And I have a problem with that. So I'm bringing it to you, the problem that I have with the city of Pontiac. Something needs to be done, and it needs to be done quickly. Because my nieces and nephews, every one of them left the city. My doctor, I have a couple of nieces that are professional people that left. My nephews, professional, they left the city because of how it looks and how it's operated. And I just have a problem with it. And so that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ramsey.
Have a blessed one.
Yes. Tamika Ramsey. Quincy Stewart.
First, I am not here to litigate the case, as I am not a litigator, nor am I interested in the particulars of the lawsuit, as that will play out in the courts with or without my opinion. I am here tonight to raise a larger question that looms throughout our history as black folk here in this country. I do not have enough time in this forum to list all the cases just in the past 10 years alone of police misconduct, brutality, murder, corruption, and harassment of our people. The callous nature in which this officer, who by the way remains unnamed, referred to this woman and her children, though difficult to listen to, is nothing new. Referring to the welfare check as dumbassed, or homeless people just being homeless, and people in Pontiac just don't die, laced with expletives too profane to utter here, is almost small potatoes compared to the actions, and in this case, inactions taken by police against black people. Are all Oakland County sheriffs like this? It would be disingenuous of me to say they are, just to please the radical left and the get rid of the police altogether movement. What I can say with complete confidence is that those who are not as this officer and others he was communicating with are unfortunately going to have to double prove themselves on calls when dealing with our community, because we have a legitimate distrust, a historically substantiated distrust of so-called law enforcement. Is it good that you now have a decent number of black officers who are usually more empathetic to black people and are less prone to the brutal and unjust behavior towards you? Yes, of course. Yet need I remind you that Tyree Nichols, a 23-year-old black man, was brutally beaten and left to die by black pigs and laughed and joked about it in Memphis? Being black and a cop is not foolproof. Black can turn so blue that even the white cops are all struck at their self-hatred. But I digress. I'm here to remind us all that the same conditions faced by the people in Oakland, California in 1966 that spawned the Black Panther Party to confront police brutality and misconduct still exist today. Names like George Floyd, Eric Garner, Tamir Rice, Alton Sterling, Philando Castile, and even Malice Green became universal. However, many less black folk unfairly harassed, falsely accused, through planting of evidence, or ripped off on traffic stops, roughed up, spoken to disrespectfully, and a host of other non-lethal but psychologically and financially damaging things occur by the police every day and all day. The vetting process at the Oakland County Sheriff's Department shows a lack of detail to allow a stinking pig like this one to slip through the cracks. How many other police are pigs like this one? How many patrol the streets of Pontiac who feel that we just don't die? How many other cops encounter us but a postage stamp's thickness beneath the surface harbors such vitriol towards the poor, the homeless, and the disenfranchised? It took 2 years to hear about this lousy pig's body cam. Why did it take that long? Lastly, as a so-called community, we must not get so desensitized to grotesque absurdities like this one that we read about it or see it on the news, flip to Netflix, and drown out our indignation in fantasy and delusion.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. Marcus Kelly. Dr. Deirdre Waterman.
It was wonderful to see the Quest cheer team and remind you about our hope, our future hope, and that's what we want to nurture here in Pontiac, which brings up to the issue of the Pontiac Youth Recreation Center, which is on the agenda today that I want to talk about. But at first, I want to bring your attention to something that is also on the agenda, and that is the Black Wellness Expo that is being put on by an organization that I'm proud to be part of that has brought many services to Pontiac, and that's the Links Incorporated, a group of women's service organization. And we are having that Black Wellness Family Expo on March 15th at the Bowen Center from 10 to 2. And at that expo, we're going to be doing a lot of health checking and also black kidney tests and diabetes tests, and also some seminars. There'll be giveaways and gifts to the people who partake of that. So I do invite, on behalf of the Links Incorporated, people to attend that on Bowen Center March 15th from 10 to 2. And I hope there will be a lot of participation in that. Health disparities among people is one of the things that I was very concerned about. And many people know that my background before I was mayor, many of you know me in that regard, I was actually a health practitioner. I loved eye surgery. So I'm well aware of the kind of health disparities and the need in our communities to safeguard our health and to get out that health information, that health care should be a well done and preserved right for those in our communities. Next, I want to turn to what's going to be a 7 and 8 item on your agenda, and it involves the Youth Recreation Center. I see that although we're told, and that was changed for a while, we're talking, but it's not going to be just for youth, it's going to be a community center. I see we're now, at least on this agenda, it's back to Youth Recreation Center, which is great because that's what the people voted for and thought they were voting for when they passed the millage, which is now quite a few years that they've been paying the millage. And with the hope that we would have and reestablish our own youth recreation center for the youth in Pontiac, for the ones that you see from Quest who could have their own place. And we did establish one, but that was closed down by Mayor Grimal because he told people he was going to build a new one with an aquatic center. Well, you know where we are right now. And what they're asking you to do now is to vote without the funding and the clear financing picture for this youth center, to rescind the vote you voted last week, and instead of getting the full financing picture and telling the people the truth about how this can be funded and what the expense will be to them. I will deal with that during agenda address, but I was able to get a copy of the funding initiative, that plan that the Deputy Mayor presented last week. It was not in the packet. It was not in this week's packet, as if you don't want people to know what's here. So I want to talk about that later.
Thank you, Dr. Waterman. Pastor Kathy?
First of all, District 5 meeting is Thursday, excuse me, at 5 o'clock down in the Lion's Den. Come on, turn out, District 5. We've got a lot of good information for you. And we had a wonderful meeting before the last couple of times, and we want you to be there this time. It is not for naught. We do really accomplish things when we get together. Number 2, these lovely kids, the Quest group. We have a little top football team here in town. We have a little tot basketball team here in town, and these people work for nothing. These are volunteers who are taking our future leaders and teaching them the ins and outs of teamwork and doing things together. The very things we as adults are having such a hard time doing, these little kids are doing. They're learning how to get along with one another, even though they may not always agree with each other. They go for the team. They're doing the things that help people learn how to be together. And so I appreciate the leaders of these three groups, because that's a lot of little kids. And if you haven't seen any of these kids play, you ought to go, because it's really fun. As you know, I spend a lot of time listening to people here in the town, because I think it's important to bring back here what we hear. We get a lot of discouraged people who don't feel as though this election that's coming up is important, because they feel like it doesn't matter anymore. They feel like they've tried and they've tried and they've tried and nothing works, and now we're got problems again, and they're big problems and nobody cares. And it's like you can't get them to do anything reaching forward into the electoral group of time of our season of our lives. If we don't do it, who's going to? Those little kids that were here, sweet and darling and beautiful as they are, they can't vote. A lot of the old people are gone. I know, because most of my friends are. But we're still here. And we don't have to agree with every jot and tittle. But by golly, we've got to start agreeing about something. And maybe those little kids, those three groups of little kids, are enough incentive to get it together pretty soon so that there's hope.
Thank you. Ms. Stevens? You won't. Dalana? See, I'm saying.
Delana.
Okay, got you.
Delana Stevens with the House of Angels. I wanted to give an update on what has happened within the last week. I've had 3 domestic violence cases where the people were fleeing from their abusers, where it was pretty severe with a couple of them. I had 2 homeless incidents. It's going to get worse. Every time I come up here, I'm going to tell you that it's getting worse. A lot of this stuff is not publicized, so the community could see everything that's what's going on. But I get those phone calls, and it's getting worse. The women that I've seen within this last week, it's been kind of terrible. So I wanted to bring that to y'all's attention as far as it's getting worse. But I am proud to say that we have partnered with Second Chance DUI, and I look better than what I've been through. We'll be feeding the homeless again this Saturday at Hope Shelter. We'll be providing them with sloppy joes, chips, water, resources if they need assistance. If anybody know of another place, because this the goal is to feed the homeless once a month, as we have funding available to feed them. So our goal is to feed the homeless once a month, just to give back to the community. A lot of people are hurting right now, and I will say it publicly. Prepare your homes. It's a lot going on right now. People is going to be hurting. Stock up on your water, your beans, and things like that, because it's happening. But that's it. I just want to let y'all know about what's going on and what I've been doing, and the domestic violence cases. I never seen a woman beaten so bad of what I seen the other day. So, yeah.
What time on Saturday?
At 11 a.m. Okay. Yeah, but I don't know. And the shelters is full, so.
All right.
They only could keep them in a hotel for so long. They don't have to worry about it.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Randolph Carter?
Hello, everyone, and the Honorable Council and Mayor. I'm not going to be long-winded today, but I did have a complaint, and I will continue to complain. The last time I was here was actually last July, and I brought up then about the census. In 2009, I did work on the census. I was part of the committee. And working on the census, and I realized that this body, including the commission, did not have all the data. And they're never going to have the data. As a matter of fact, as I've started going through and mentioned that we have different versions of the charter, I have 12. And my picture is not that picture. My language, my quotation marks, my Oxford commas are different. The fact that it's bounded means that none of the pages can be removed. And for the 12 years I stayed on council, I only used this. There is no record of the council, the 12 years I spent on it and investigated, that the council ever allowed a digital copy to be made. There is no version on a single charter that you have. Now, I asked before, I wanted to have one from Doyle. I would have it from Sharika. I don't care if Sharonda did it. I don't care if Elizabeth Fletcher did it. Vivian Spann, I knew all of them. And I could not find a copy with a raised embossed seal in it. But that image is a fake. That image is not mine. The pocket ones we have that was taken off of these are not. My periods and commas in Selden City Property 3.113 has commas in it. The new digital version, whoever created does not. One thing about the digital version is, if anybody's familiar with META, M-E-T-A, I'm an analyst. I investigate and do criminal investigations. I can take any one of these documents and pull it up. And the last one I pulled up, even though she's not here, I can say Sharika Hawkins' name is on it at 2016. Because any document that the city made is going to identify exactly what computer, what printer it was made on, and who produced it, which was the same analogy that we have with the pensioners. Because when we dug into them, those were whited out, and OCR can identify it. What I'm going to bring up briefly is there are 600 streets, and it wasn't taken into consideration. The census tract, there are 16. You only talk about 4. The zip codes, there are 6, because there's 7,500 residents per zip code. In the voting precincts, there are 3,000. These numbers are for real. The council district should be 8,700. Do you know that there are 28,000 homes? But since the city decided to sell the water department and give it away, now all of a sudden we only have 16,000 houses that show up on the tax roll. So just doing that, you cannot create a census or do a charter revision without having the proper numbers. Thank you.
Thank you for that important information. Ms. Gloria Miller.
Thank you, Randy, for that info. I was going to mention about that charter, but I'm going to let you handle that because I got something I want to talk about. Delaney, I know I think you're on social media with me. You're an angel. You're awesome. If anybody need to be on that board, it's you, the heart you got. And I want to work with you, but I don't want to work with you until I got my heart in it because I'm working on something else. When I work on something, I don't want to finish it, but it's something that I want to do is work with you. I never been through what these young ladies been through, but your heart is in it. Which brings me to Ruth. Ruth, we work together in the city of Pontiac. How you doing? We old school. We've been here a long time. And by the way, to go back to the Quest, and that tells you my age, but God is good. All those little kids, I used to go to church with them. I seen them from birth. Quest, all 16 years. My granddaughter used to be in Quest. She was quite good until she got in sports, and now she played basketball. They are awesome. We got some good things in the city of Pontiac. And I ask this question to anybody in the city of Pontiac. Don't get discouraged. You got to keep fighting. You got no choice. I wonder, ask yourself this question. How many people would run for that seat if they wouldn't get any money? I used to ask that question. I'd do it free. I did it free for 3.5 years down here. I did it free for 20 years. I did it free. I don't get anything. Because the love I have for my city, Ruth, we can get it back. But we got to get honest people. We got to get people. You got to quit electing your friend If they ain't got their life right, how in the hell you think they can get your life right? Look at that. How you treat people. Where have you been? Are you in the fight? See, I go out in the street right now. I've been from 1 to 7 on my feet for years. Out there by myself. Clyde know me. Me and Clyde go way back. Ruth, all these people. Oh, I didn't see you, girl. You too, you know? God is good. The problem with is that we get people elected and they don't care about you. Get somebody that's going to do the job. They don't care about it. They say, you don't get a penny glory. I don't care. I know I did it on council when I was up there. The mayor, she attested that you tried to give us more money. We turned it down. But you made us take it. Now, I'm going to get controversial, but that's who I am. That's what makes me who I am. Another reason we are, because somebody sitting in those seats didn't care about you. They cared about themselves. Okay? See, a lot of people want to beat me up, but I don't care. Let's do it. Because there's no way in the world that you can sit up on that seat, and they've been voting yes for 3 years. No bridge down there by you, Ruth. No bridge. No community center. And no GERS. Pontiac, we can do it. Pay attention to who you got. Look at the people that have been there all the time.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. Ms. Darlene Clark.
Good afternoon, administration, mayor, and council, and the people enlisting of ear. First, let me say this, and I've said this many a times, many a times, 2 things that's very important for the city of Pontiac residents. Our council represent the people. The people are the voice to have your job. That's noted. We have people from different states, as I've said to you many times, from Washington to Tennessee to Columbus to New York. You name it, people all over the world is actually looking at these council meetings. So please take heed to what I'm getting ready to say to you. But first, let me put this out the way. Mayor, there was a grant that was instrumented to your administration for tree cutting. Could you give an update on that? And how can the people who have bad trees in their yard, how can they get a hold of you in order for you to cut their trees down? And secondly, the question that keep coming to us is that the vacant lots that you have said over thousands of vacant lots, can you take some of those lots and build centers or things for the city for revenue purposes instead of selling the lots off? So those are the 2 things that's really that's a question. This is for you, Mike McGinnis, since you, Council McGinnis, and I apologize for not saying council at first. Ms. Stevens come here, she's been coming here for well over a month, and she's been begging and pleading. The problem that we see with this is that you're not giving her public directions of what she should do in order to get help for these people. She have stated to you that these centers are full and closed, but yet you still never publicly give her direction of how she should handle this. Now, she's a resident of Pontiac that's taking care of other residents where you feel like they're begging, which is a problem for you, council, because you represent the people, and all people, whether they're good, bad, or need help, you're supposed to give direction. And for my next thing, let's put the elephant out the room. Ma'am, I'm sorry I forgot your name, but she brought to the attention that people don't want to vote. It's not that the people don't want to vote. They feel that the election has been rigged. They feel nowhere in the history of Pontiac has all 7 council members has been wiped out and 7 replaced. They also feel that Jason Bauer is a part of the problem in getting you guys a seat. So that's the elephant out the room. The other elephant out the room is this. No, you don't represent the people. You represent your own personality, and that is not an opinion, that is facts. You, by your own words and what you have showed the public, you have truly not looked out for the welfare of your district. Now, Councilman Carrington, we have very good report about you. For those others, from the parks to your own council district, you have not progress whatsoever. The city is in dire need. The city's in very, very bad shape. You need to communicate publicly more with the people to give them direction on your intent, because right now it's not looking too good.
Thank you. Ms. Clark, that concludes public comment, President McGinnis.
Okay, earlier this evening, consent agenda, we adopted the resolution honoring the community impact of Clyde Kemp. I'd like to give the floor to Councilman Parker to read that adopted resolution before we present it to our fellow citizen.
Thank you, Brother President. City of Pontiac resolution celebrating the community impact of Mr. Clyde Kemp. Whereas the City of Pontiac, Michigan, on an ongoing basis strives to acknowledge citizens whose life and accomplishments have had a profound impact of elevating and inspiring the community, and whereas Mr. Clyde Kemp started life in the Deep South as a teenager, protested and resisted Jim Crow-era segregationist policies in his home state of Mississippi before moving to Pontiac, Michigan in 1969, and whereas Mr. Kemp was an early African-American contractor and entrepreneur in the city of Pontiac and made his home on Park Place in the city, where in time he came to own many of the properties there and took a proactive stance to prevent crime in his neighborhood and protect residents, and was dubbed the mayor of Park Place, which garnered newspaper coverage. And whereas Mr. Kemp continues his entrepreneurial endeavors to this day as the only African-American to hold vast land rights and mineral rights to fresh alkaline water in upstate Michigan through his White Cloud Company, and whereas Pontiac City Council voted on March 4, 2025 City Council meeting to approve the honorary naming of Park Place in tribute to Mr. Clyde Kemp for his hundreds of Pontiac residents petitioned, called, wrote, and spoke in favor of that decision to be made now. Therefore, be it resolved, the Pontiac City Council hereby celebrates the community impact and positive contributions of Mr. Clyde Kemp to the city of Pontiac, Michigan, and further resolve, the City Council on behalf of the entire Pontiac community honors and thanks Mr. Kemp for his years of service to his neighborhood and to the city of Pontiac as a whole, and further resolve, the City Council requests for the administration proceed with establishing appropriate signage at Park Place to reflect the honorary renaming of that street in tribute of Mr. Kemp, with Park Place renaming as the legal name. Pontiac City Council, Pontiac, Michigan, March 11, 2025.
And Mr. Kemp is here in this room, so we'd like to present this resolution to you, to our fellow citizen of high esteem. A round of applause for Mr. Kemp. And we'll do our routine as before. If you could join us here, Mr. Kemp, at the front. No, don't. Will some come around and the rest will fill in behind you.
So Baldwin, I assume?
They're all Baldwin, different areas of Walton, Baldwin, and Johnson.
And you just gave it to them yesterday morning?
No, I gave it to him, sent it Sunday night, so.
Okay.
One way or the other. You gotta move. All right, got you.
Another hand for D. Clyde Kemp. Before we move to the next item of business, Mr. Kemp, would you like to take the microphone and offer any reflections? And I do want the record to reflect the resolution language does identify this, but literally hundreds of Pontiac residents petitioned and signed. They wanted to see that honor done for Mr. Kemp. So I want to commend you and the residents that advocated and lobbied to make sure that happened.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, council, the collectively and individually. It's been a long haul, Mr. William Parker. I want to thank you. I want to also thank Mrs. James, I'm sorry, and all of the council members. But what I can say, this is a commission to even work harder. I guess I would be suiting up and booting up. And I just need the participation and help of the city to help keep the streets clean. I'm in the back to take up the slack. And I appreciate you so much. And also, I would like to appreciate all of the citizens that live in Pontiac that signed that petition. It was about 300 residents, and they count. We count, and collectively we could pull through this. I thank you, and God bless.
Thank you, Mr. Kemp. Congratulations again. And though she physically isn't here at tonight's meeting, Councilwoman Melanie Rutherford, who represents the neighborhood that includes Clyde Kemp Boulevard, aka Park Place, made the motion and advocated for that decision at last week's City Council meeting. So her congratulations or well wishes are embodied in this evening's action as well. We are now at recognition of elected officials. Are there any current elected officials wishing to give an update on their position to the community? Yes, ma'am, you have the floor.
Good evening, Pontiac. Good evening, Council President and Pro Tem and all the council members here, Mayor Grimel, and our Deputy Mayor. My name is Kenyatta Bowman, Vice President of Pontiac Board of Education. I just want to say that we are here to serve the community, and if there are any misunderstandings, and if anyone has any questions, please feel free to seek out your board members and ask us questions. We are here to serve you all, and keep up the good work, Council, and that's that. Good evening.
Thank you. Any other requests for recognition of elected officials? Hearing none, we're now at agenda address. Any requests tonight, Pro Tem Carrington?
Yes, President McGinnis. Tamika Ramsey. Miss, is it Kalenia Howard? Kalima. What item did you want to address the council with?
I wanted to address the council with today about the fire that happened over in Woodland Heights.
Okay. Well, public comment has passed, but I'm gonna ask for permission to have you. It's a very important issue. You can.
Hello, everybody. Hello. My name is Kalima Howard, and what I'm doing right now, in the middle of doing right now, is helping the 40 families that had to vacate their homes due to the fire over at Woodland Heights. And I'm coming to the city, the community, as a unit, as a whole. Can we get together and help these families out? Right now, I have some clothing vouchers. I have a couple doctors and nurses that are going out to see if they need medication, and mental health supporters that are going to give them therapy. And I was wondering if anyone else can help with this. And also, I want to thank my council person, Mr. Mike McGinnis, for allowing me to be great with the issue. So I'm coming to everyone. It's very awesome that we're able to come together and complete this mission to help these mothers, kids, seniors, single parents in general, to help them out at this time of need. And that'll be all. Oh, my drop-off location, if anyone have any used clothing, toiletries, or anything, my office is at 35, is that North Johnson? South Johnson, across from North Oakland Medical Center where Dr. Isaac is. And I'm there all day. If you guys have anything to help these families out, please contact me or stop by my office.
Do you want to share your number? Do you want to share a number where you can be reached?
Oh, my phone number is 248-973-4338. 248-973-4338. Kalima. Kelimia. Last name Howard. So once again, I'm coming to the whole city, asking everyone, prayers, anything that you guys can do to make these people, because this is their home, and we're always doing things and fighting for our people. Why can't we help them? Let's be great. Let's move Pontiac forward and get this job done. Thank you guys so much for your time.
Thank you,
And
Ms.
have a
Howard.
good night.
Dr. Deirdre Waterman.
Thank you for good Samaritans in our community who help our brothers and sisters in time of need. I have some things that I will be in contact with you about that I can contribute.
Hey, Dr. Waterman, excuse me, what item of business on the agenda?
Well, actually, since you added her to the agenda, I spoke to her, but I really came up to speak about items 7 and 8. And would you give me my 15 seconds back since you asked about that? Okay? Thank you. I appreciate that, Pro Tem. So speaking to items 7 and 8, and that was what I introduced in public comment, and that was about the agenda items having to do with the Youth Recreation Center, the funding. Council had asked administration to give them a true picture of the funding and financial feasibility for building a $40 million youth recreation center in our community, something that many of us have been waiting for so long, and so that financial picture was given, and that was supposed to be the basis for you to consider rescinding a vote you had previously made about spending another $600,000 in the designing of such a building. But you felt, and appropriately so, you don't go ahead with something of this magnitude without having a clear financial picture of how we're going to pay for it and how we're going to operate it. So this was the presentation that Deputy Mayor and the Mayor gave us last week. And I understand that council members had it, but I was looking for it because it's a lot of material here, and I wanted to read it for myself. I had trouble obtaining it, but I did get a copy, and I'm glad I did because I want to share with the citizens what this actually says, because I think people should be told the truth and should be given the clear idea of what they're putting themselves into. So one of the things is, in terms of the funding package, what this funds is the building and the construction. But there's nothing in here about the operations. How are you going to operate the facility? Where is the money going to come to do that, all right? And it can't come from just the youth millage, because the youth millage can only be used for youth activities by state law and by what the voters passed in terms of the millage. So that's a little thing that you let slip by. And that's one of the reasons, I guess, why we didn't put it in the packet, because you didn't want people to realize this. But I want you, council, to realize that as you're considering the fact that, do you have a clear financial picture? The other thing is that essentially what they want to do is sell bonds in order to pay this all by cash. So if you look at all the things and the parts of doing this and the funding it's going to come from, it's all essentially cash, including the bonds, which they're going to pay out of the general fund. Now, if you pay that out of the general fund, that's going to deplete our general fund. And by year 5, if you do this kind of spending, according to your graph, we'll be back to 0 or minus 0, which is the same thing that we had in the emergency manager. That's what it shows on this graph here, okay? So I'm reading from what you obtained, what you had presented. So those are the things people should be aware. Should also be aware that the plan, I understand, is to come back again and ask people for more bonds to do the roads. And then that's not going to be able to pay it out of the general fund. That's going to be increased taxes. So that's what people should know.
Thank you, Dr. Waterman. Pastor Kathy, what item of business for the agenda? Okay.
It occurred to me when watching those little girls tonight and thinking about the other two groups of children that we have. If we can do that without a rec center, imagine what we can do with a rec center. Now, I know the other side of that statement because I've had this conversation with many people in the last couple of weeks. If we can do it without the rec center, why do we need the rec center? Well, because that's not the only group of kids there are in town. And some kids don't have any way to get from point A to point B. We need organization in everything that we do. But I couldn't help thinking about it when they were here tonight. If we could do that without the rec center, what could we do where we had paid professionals that are there to help our kids? When Lomas Brown would come home and put some time in with our kids, and you know Lomas would. He wanted to 5 years ago. And his friends. That's how it works. It builds on success. It doesn't build on defeat. Every week for the last several meetings, we've talked about the homeless, and I know it's not on the agenda tonight, but I'm up here. I came here 9 years ago to take care of the homeless in Pontiac, or to help take care of the homeless in Pontiac. And we were doing pretty good for a while, and then the wonderful pandemic that shut down everything everywhere. But believe it or not, I still come downtown, and I still hear, "Hey, Mom, we gonna get together again one of these days? Gonna have food one of these days?" They're still here. The woman and her children would not have frozen to death if there had been an empty spot for her to go to. The facilities that we have are overcrowded and underfunded. And people, you don't want to hear it, but every one of your churches could help. Open your doors. You've got fellowship halls when it's freezing outside. We had that kind of help. We have that kind of organization. And we need some of these buildings opened up. They're not going to go away, people. I know you want them to, but they're not going to. They've been here since I was a kid. They're just greater numbers now. And now they're freezing to death. Is that what we want?
Thank you, Ms. Kathy. Ms. Darlene Clark, what item? Okay. And Laura Miller on deck. And
once again, hi again. It's not just so much for the rec center, but it pertains to it as well as what I'm getting ready to say. Council, please understand this. The residents of Pontiac are not trying to attack you. They never have. They're not trying to belittle you nor take anything from you. They're actually, the city of Pontiac has been trying to raise above you to help you stand tall. But by not listening, it's what makes the people feel that there's no hope and no help. It's make them question your capabilities and how did you get where you are if you can't hear. So let me say that first. And then the next thing that comes in mind when the public see that we have a police officer here. You have a police officer here for a council person who from the very beginning, the council, especially the president, could not control. But to the people, it looks like she controlled you. And I'm actually speaking about Councilman Rutherford. So on the council, when I say what I say to you, this is not an attack. This is facts finding, trying to get our city where we want it, where other cities want it, and bring attention to you because you're doing a good job. The rec center is a very, 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 very good example. And let me tell you why. You have a $34 million rec center that you so amply want to push in the middle of homes that has no quality of life. The city has not done anything to help these people. Yes, it's across from a nice park. I grant you that. It's across from the post office. I grant you that. It's across from the stamping grounds for General Motors. I grant you that. but it's not in an area where the residents can actually reach you. It's not on none of the main corridors where the people can say, hey, I'm going to the rec center, I'm dropping my kids off. So it brings the question to why you want $34 million when you really can take less of $34 million, and the council can vote on it. The administration has thus far done nothing but ask, and you have given. You can say no to him. You can. The people voted you to say no. You're pushing so hard for the impossible that you're making people to pay for your vision. It's not your vision. Give the people quality of something, but it don't have to cost $34 million.
Thank you, Ms. Clark. Ms. Miller, what item?
I too want to say that yes, council, and I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt that you're going to vote no. I don't think you're going to vote for that. Now, you can prove me wrong, but I do. Because I know a lot of you up there that cares. Michael, you're the youngest one up there. You almost be my son. You're the future. How do you want the city to look? It's just like you own a home, and your home is due, and you want to buy this real expensive Lexus. Let's use a Lexus. But you don't have the money to do it. Just get it and then one day maybe lose it. And I think I'm going to give you guys the benefit of the doubt. You're not going to do it. So I'm not going to go in that route. But I will say this. I came up in the rec center. Anybody know my history? My kids was raised in the rec center. I was over Televan. We had a service for the seniors. We would take them places. They go do things, all that stuff. Back in the day, Pontiac had it going on. We really did. Somewhere along the line, we got lost. And Pastor Catherine, you brought that open. I'm glad you brought that up because I ride around the city, Delania, and you see all these churches in Pontiac, $1 million churches. And we got homeless people in the street at night. I see your posts on Facebook. I see these people out here. The youth center would be nice if we had it. But right now, we're in so much debt. We can't afford to help the kids right now because they have nowhere to live first. What good is a big center in the city of Pontiac for $40 million and people ain't got nowhere to live? So that's where we are now. So why are we even asking for money? You are lame ducks for the next 9 months. If the people put you back, then put it back on the board. Put it back on the table. The mayor's leaving. He's gone. Don't know how many of you coming back. So why would you do this to the city of Pontiac citizens? It doesn't make a lot of sense. Now, that's what they're telling me in the street, and I know that as well. With that being said, we could come together. And see, and I'm going to put it out there because, see, they're going to smack me all kind of way. That's why I don't go to no church now, because I'm going to say what I got to say. If you can't get along with your churches, how are you going to get along with the people? And like Darlene said, there's a police officer sitting down here. She got no business here. Love you, police officer. Do a good job out there. This is a place of business. Why they mentioned about the prayer, Pastor Kathy, is because it's nothing about prayer down here when we get through at the end of the night. Nothing. Cutting each other throat, talking, cussing, fussing. That's what the people see. You got to walk that walk and talk that talk. So that's why I don't get up anymore. I don't get up anymore because it ain't nothing about this prayer. It's prayer. Because if prayer was down here, we wouldn't be in the shape we're in, Ruth. God is good. There's nothing bad about God. So we got to separate that, Pontiac. This is politics down here.
Thank you, Ms. Miller.
You're welcome.
That concludes agenda address.
Thank you, Pro Tem Carrington. We're now at ordinances, number 4 on the agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution approving the first reading of an ordinance amending the restated Pontiac General Employees Retirement System (REGERS) to incorporate Secure Act 2.0 requirements and amending Pontiac General Employees Retirement System (GERS) to incorporate Secure Act 2.0 requirement?
Moved by Carrington.
It's been moved by Pro Tem Carrington, seconded by Councilman Parker. All right, so this is a request that the GERS and REGERS boards and representative have put to the city of Pontiac, and we turn now to our city's council that's very conversant in this matter of business to give an update to the council. Is there anything that the mayor administration wants to say before we turn it over to the attorney?
Well, just introduce the basic reason we're here, which is in terms of tonight's proposed amendments. There are some additional amendments that GERS is asking the city to approve. But in terms of the amendments under consideration this evening, they're solely to make sure that our pension ordinances for both the GERS as well as the police and fire pension are in compliance with a relatively new federal law called the Secure Act. This is actually the second version of the Secure Act. And so that's the reason why these amendments are being considered. And with that, I'll turn it over to our attorney for Miller Canfield, Mickey Bartlett. Thank you for being here, Council.
Sure. Thank you, everyone, and good evening. It's nice to come here. I sit on a small township board, and so it's interesting to see how the big boys do it. It's a little different than our small town. But so you're right, I am here to talk about the Secure Act. Before I get into the heart of it, I just wanted to say that we group the GERS and REGERS together, so that will require one vote, and then the police and fire will require a separate vote. These will come back for final adoption in the next meeting. There will be more plan amendments, and so we went back and forth because, as I learned, there's additional things that need to change, but there's a requirement that everything go through an actuary to see if there's a cost associated. So we determined that 4 or 5 of them won't have a cost. The last one will. So I think we might end up bringing the batch that doesn't require costing through next, and then that other one can wait because I don't think that person will be retiring for a while. So just to let you know, those are coming down the road. To start with the GERS and REGERS, so this will be a first reading tonight. The Board of Trustees unanimously passed this, and what we're going to ask you to do tonight is first to request confirmation, because from what I understand is the REGERS amendment for the Secure Act. There's the Secure Act and then Secure 2.0. What I understand is that REGERS on the Secure Act that you earlier approved an amendment, and I think that they just need confirmation of that, a copy of where you signed off that you did pass that. And then tonight, we'll be looking at Exhibit A and B, which are the 2 plan amendments for the different plans. And basically what they're doing is with your retirement plan, because there's pre-tax money in there, the IRS and Congress say when you have to start receiving that benefit. So probably a lot of you know it used to be 70 and a half. At 70 and a half, the April 1st after that, you had to start your benefit. It's now going to be age 72 for members born after July 1, 1949 and before January 1, 1951. And you'll get copies of this. It'll be age 73 for members born on or after January 1, 1951 and before December 31, 1959. And then finally, it'll be age 75 for members born on or after January 1, 1960. It really applies more to people who are wealthier than me, where they're trying to do some tax planning. For the most part, people tend to take it as soon as they're eligible, but it is a statutory change. So the resolution itself will need to be read into the record for the first group for GERS and REGERS. And I don't know under your policy if you normally have the clerk do that or if you would like me to do it. I can go either way.
You have the floor. Why don't you take it away from here? And then those that are wondering why the change, it's because of federal law. We're just reflecting the federal law that added those steps, those sort of, you must start by those.
It's basically tax law, so it creates an issue where like the millionaires can't hold on to that money forever and not pay taxes. It's just telling when you have to start to take that benefit. So I'll read this, and because I'm an ERISA attorney, this is usually where everybody starts to roll their eyes, so be prepared. Okay. Okay. Whereas Internal Revenue Code 401A9 requires qualified retirement plans include language providing the participants must commence receipt of required minimum distributions on or before a prescribed required beginning date. And whereas in accordance with Internal Revenue Code Section 401A9, the City of Pontiac reestablished General Employees Retirement System, known as REGERS, as set forth in ordinance number 2381, and the City of Pontiac General Employees Retirement System as set forth in ordinance 2377 contain such language, and whereas on December 20, 2019, the Setting Every Community Up Retirement Enhancement Act of 2019, known as the Secure Act, increased the age used for purposes of determining a participant's required beginning date from 70 and a half to 72. And whereas on December 29, 2022, the Secure Act 2.0 Act further increased the age used for purposes of determining a participant's required beginning date to 73 or 75, depending on the participant's date of birth. And whereas the REGERS and GERS ordinances must be amended to reflect these changes. Now, therefore, be it hereby resolved that the first reading of the respective attached proposed amendment for REGERS to ordinance number 2381, marked as Exhibit A, and for GERS to ordinance 2377, marked as Exhibit B, are hereby approved by City Council in compliance with the Secure Act and the Secure Act 2.0.
Thank you very much. Are there any discussion or questions on that? Councilwoman Jones.
Good evening. Quick question and clarification question regarding Section 1, subparagraph B. There is language here pertaining to beneficiaries, and I understand that this federally required Secure Act is separate from, or this particular matter is separate from the ongoing, dispute of settling the GERS retirement issue. I just wanted to clarify, though, back to my question, that this language would not necessarily bind us, the city, to approve beneficiaries and receiving that, monthly payment. There was some discussion that we've had.
No, and that's a good point that you raised. That's an entirely different issue, and that's something that you'll work through. This is a statutory change, so with the pensions, they're so heavily regulated. So this is something coming straight from the IRS. No discretion on it, just when they have to take a benefit. It's not awarding anybody a benefit that they wouldn't or otherwise have. It's when the plan determines that a benefit is payable to you, this is when you have to take it. So that other issue is not pulled into this at all.
Just wanted to publicly confirm that. And I do have one follow-up question. The primary changes, appear to be that related to the age factors in those subsections of ages. Is that a fair assessment?
It is, and then I just mentioned the new regulation, so it's all around the required beginning date for the pension. Now, down the road, we'll have some more coming through, but this one is only on the Secure Act because we knew right off the top of our head that this did not require an actuarial analysis. It's not changing the benefit in any way, and that's why we were able to put this one through immediately.
So without this, we would be in non-compliance?
Yeah, you have a little bit more time to adopt it, right? But, we're getting it in now, and yes, by the time these birth dates come into play, you would have to have it in.
Thank you.
Yep, good questions. Thank you.
Any final discussion? Hearing none, roll call on adoption of the resolution to approve the first reading of an amendment to the General Employees Retirement System, GERS, and reinstituted General Employees Retirement System, REGERS ordinance. Deputy Clerk.
Parker?
Yes.
Carrington?
Yes.
Goodman?
Yes.
James?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
6 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. The resolution is adopted. We are now at number 5 on the agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution to approve the first reading of an ordinance amending police and fire pension fund to incorporate those Secure Act 2.0
Moved by
requirements?
Carrington.
Support.
It's been moved by Pro Tem Carrington and seconded by Councilwoman Jones. We give the floor to Attorney Bartlett, and you'll be given the honors of reading it into the record, too.
Thank you. So on this one, police and fire, they were amended for the first Secure Act. So this is to amend it for the second Secure Act that came out. So, okay, everybody, roll your eyes. You ready? Whereas Internal Revenue Code Section 401A9 requires qualified retirement plans include language providing that participants must commence receipt of required minimum distributions on or before a prescribed required beginning date. And whereas in accordance with Internal Revenue Code Section 401A9, the City of Pontiac Police and Fire Retirement System, as set forth in ordinance number, I did not put an ordinance number in because it was not available, so we'll need to fill that in. But it contains such required minimum distribution language. And whereas on December 20th, 2019, the Setting Every Community Up for Retirement Enhancement Act of 2019, known as the Secure Act, increased the age used for purposes of determining a participant's required beginning date from 70.5 to 72. And whereas on December 29, 2022, the Secure Act 2.0 further increased the age used for purposes of determining a participant's required beginning date to 73 or 75, depending on the participant's date of birth. Now therefore be it hereby resolved that the first reading of the attached proposed amendment to this ordinance, marked as Exhibit A, is hereby approved by City Council in compliance with the Secure Act and the Secure Act 2.0.
Thank you. Any discussion on this mirrored action with the police and fire pension fund? Yes, Councilwoman James.
Just want to confirm that the only changes are the Secure Act numbers that are listed under Section 5C, where it lists 1, the calendar year in which the member attains. Those are the only changes for the ordinance.
Yes, again, and then it just goes on a little bit more because I also put in a reference to the current regulations, but it's all on the same matter.
It would be helpful, next week if we could just have a copy that actually reflected in the ordinance itself what has changed. Because it's...
Oh, a red line version?
Yes.
Oh, sure. I can provide that.
Yeah. It would be a lot easier to understand what's been added.
I did note is just being newer to your account is when I go online and I look at your ordinances, I believe 2 out of 3 of your pension plans are listed, and that's where I would get the electronic version. I think it may be the Riegers that's not on there yet, so just maybe something that you consider posting that one as well. And then I'll take those and I'll redline the changes.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
The city clerk is ill this evening, so he would be the one that would handle the posting.
Okay.
So we'll follow up with him on that regard.
Did you say that the ordinance is not listed?
She's stating something that I don't have in front of me, so I can't say definitively where it stands or if it's just well buried.
Yeah, it looks like you have one place where you put the ordinances for the retirement systems, and I saw 2 out of 3 posted, and it's probably just a matter of the most recent one that got reestablished of putting that one on there as well. So in the meantime, I got a hard copy of it. But yes, I can definitely give you red line versions, and that would be more helpful. So I'll do that next time.
Okay, thank you.
Further discussion on the motion before us? Hearing none, roll call on adoption of the resolution approving the first reading of an ordinance amending police and fire pension fund to incorporate Secure Act 2.0 requirements. I should make a point. This was something that their Board of Trustees also authorized and requested based on my understanding.
So I believe that they authorized it in their own board meetings before it came here.
Okay. Yeah, so we had this pending request where they were awaiting council action. Roll call on adoption. Deputy Clerk?
Carrington,
Yes.
Goodman,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
6 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. The resolution is adopted, and it'll be before us again for a second reading. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Pleasure meeting all of you.
We're at the number 6 on the agenda, a return from last week's city council meeting. We requested that it be back again so that way the information can be fresh. It's information and figures that the deputy mayor helped prepare and present for city council and community's benefit for that frame of reference as we make decisions on items 7 and 8 on the agenda to follow related to the city's new construction of a recreation center. So Deputy Mayor Stevens, if you want to take it from here, if it's clicking effectively. All right.
It is clicking effectively. Thank you, Council President. Also, In the ether, we do have with us the architectural firm, Racer, and then we do also have our city attorney who worked on this as well, Mr. Jeff Gallant. And so this is the presentation that we did have last week, so I won't go through the entire presentation again. I would just remind everyone that we started off by talking about how did we get here. We got here because in the city's heyday, we had 4 centers that were dedicated specifically to, well, they were primarily used for youth recreation. They were actual recreation buildings for the entire community, but they were primarily thought of as youth centers. The emergency manager closed and sold all of them except for one, but the one that he didn't sell remained closed. The community decided that it really valued youth recreation and did pass a millage, and that millage brings in just over $1.3 million a year. And we went through extensive community vetting to find out what did the community want in a recreation center. And so, you know, these are the items that we decided that the community would want. We started with a base number of $25 million, but the center that we designed, not including the pool, was a $37 million building, and City Council wanted a presentation to showcase or illustrate the city's financial ability to actually build a $37 million facility.
Pro Tem Carrington has a question.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. I just want to, let's talk about the youth millage, for example.
Yes.
There's been a lot of said that we couldn't operate the center based on the operating expenses of the center due to the millage doesn't allow us. So please expound on that for us and the community.
Yes, absolutely. So I don't have the millage language in front of me. I apologize for not bringing it. But there is nothing in the millage language itself, that expressly says the city cannot spend the millage on operations. There is nothing in the millage itself that says the city cannot spend the money on building a building. We have been using the millage funds currently to operate youth recreation activities. So we have been using those funds to rent spaces. We've been using those funds to hire instructors. We've been using those funds to buy materials and equipments and put on special events. In designing the funding mechanism for building the building, we made the intentional decision not to use any of the youth recreation millage on the construction of the building. All of the youth recreation funds were set aside to only pay for youth recreation activities. And in preparation for that, we have actually been underspending the youth recreation funds, knowing that one day there would be a building and we would actually need money for utilities and for cleaning of the building. And so we actually have that capacity in our existing budget allocation to say, oh, now we have to pay for utilities. There is money that can be spent on utilities.
All right, thank you.
Councilman Parker, microphone.
Thank you, Brother President. Deputy Mayor, 2 questions. One, as you talked about the youth millage and what it could be used, and you talked about how we've used it before. Are we paying salaries out of that for what we're doing?
We are paying salaries for the youth recreation workers.
So as we move forward with this proposed plan, we could still use that millage for maintenance of the new building as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Please proceed.
Thank you.
Okay. And so the next thing that we did in this presentation, because this is what the presentation was asked to do, we focused on the capital stack, so all of the different sources of funding to actually build the building. The former council set aside $3.2 million that's in our general fund, and we are suggesting taking another $15 million out of the general fund for a total of $18.2 million coming from general fund expenses. We are then looking at $6.8 million that this council and administration set aside in ARPA dollars specifically for the Youth Recreation Center. And finally, we are looking at a $15 million bond, or borrowing $15 million. And this is where a lot of confusion came into play last week. So I do want to take a little bit of time and really talk about this $15 million bond, or this $15 million borrowing of funds. When a municipality borrows money, it does so through selling bonds. Those bonds can be, well, those bonds have to be repaid. Those bonds can either be repaid through tax dollars, or they can be repaid through actual fees that are charged. We are not suggesting that we are going to be charging fees to pay these bonds, so obviously we would be paying for these bonds through tax dollars. We are not asking to increase any taxes in order to pay for these bonds. As we go forward in the presentation, you will see that the city's annual spend over the course of the last 5 years has consistently been approximately $6 or more million less than the amount of money that we have brought in. A $15 million borrowing would cost us just over $1 million a year to pay back over the timeline that we've asked to borrow the money. So from our existing income stream, the city can afford to borrow $15 million and not put itself at any risk of financial distress. Additionally,
and I'm just going to slow you down because I really want the community that's watching to understand this presentation. So why do municipal governments actually use bonds? I know the answer to that, but why do a lot of cities actually take on these big capital projects and use bonds?
So that's a great question, Councilman. Thank you. City of Pontiac has actually been an anomaly in the way we spend money, because we have, since emergency management, paid for almost everything with pure cash. The reason that municipalities, the reason that corporations, quite frankly, and the municipality is a corporation, use borrowing or debt to pay for capital expenses is because it is much more efficient, if done properly, to leverage the money that you have and be able to borrow money for large one-time expenses and then pay on that over time, because that allows you to have enough money in your bank for when exceptional deals or exceptional things come up that you need the money for right now. You actually have that ability to do it and pull the trigger. An example that is relevant to most people's normal everyday lives is your home and your automobile. So most of us who own a home have taken out a mortgage. And we took out a mortgage because we needed to make this one-time large payment, but we did not have that much money on hand to buy that building. But we had enough money on hand to say, and we had enough income stream on hand to say, I can buy this building, I can operate this building, and I can pay back the money for this building over time, leaving me with a cash flow so that I could go to the movies, so that I could buy food, so that I could do all these other things. If, however, we took all of our money and we became house poor and cash rich, then we would not be able to function on a daily basis. And so by the city borrowing money, like most corporations do, it allows us to not be building rich and cash poor, but it allows us to balance so that we have enough cash on hand to take advantage of other things as they come up.
And this would be a tax-free municipal bond, is that correct?
That is correct.
And that is currently an instrument that is accessible to local governments, but hasn't always been, and the federal administration may in the future eliminate a tax-free municipal bond. Have you heard that perspective that's been shared with us by the Southeastern Michigan Council of Governments, or SEMCOG, that there's some discussion that the federal powers that may take that opportunity away from cities. So we'd still be able to borrow or bond, but not at that tax-free municipal or AKA low-cost option, which would benefit big bonding agency corporations and Wall Streets and et cetera, but wouldn't be as beneficial to the taxpayers of cities and townships.
That is correct. So currently, as we speak, we are allowed as a municipality to sell tax-free bonds, which through a long list of complicated functions just means that we can borrow money at a lower rate than any other private corporation. When they take away, if they take away the tax-free option, we would no longer be able to borrow at that lower rate, and we would be in the market with all other corporations that are borrowing money.
Okay. Other Pro Tem?
Also, this is going to go back to the utilities. I just want to make sure that these projections are correct. As far as operation for utilities, you're talking about $200K yearly?
Yes, sir.
And $30K yearly for cleaning. Is that done in-house, or are you talking about an outside company coming in and cleaning?
So that is a preliminary estimate of what the cleaning expense would be for a 55,000 square foot building, and that was modeled off of a building that the architects and the recreation director visited in Illinois.
Okay, and I also know at the Parks and Recreational Committee, we talked about type of security. I don't know, is that something that they had a chance to talk about, Councilwoman James?
No, the public safety is
Yes.
working with
Okay.
the security team on that.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions before we keep proceeding? Councilman Parker, microphone.
In regards to your operational expenses, particularly cleaning the building, the numbers that I heard seems to be somewhat low to me. Is that for cleaning while the building is open and then doing a thorough cleaning after it closes, or how does it?
I believe that's just for cleaning while the building is open, not additional cleaning at night.
And does that include the additional cleaning that has to be done because of, well, we have to wipe high-use areas more often than just once a time because people are constantly in and moving. You have to keep them somewhat sanitized more frequently. So is that included in that pricing?
I do not know. I would assume that you are correct, that may be a slightly low number. But again, if we look at it, if you look at $200,000 for utilities, and if we take the cleaning all the way up to $100,000, that's $300,000 in cost. We have been underspending our youth recreation millage intentionally by over $400,000 every year. That's still, and so we already have youth recreation workers. We already have, we're paying for overhead. So we're paying a certain amount for all of the IT. We're paying a certain amount to cover the legal salaries. So all of that is already included. Even at $100,000 for cleaning, we still have another $100,000 that is yet to be accounted for.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Yet to be spoken for. Mayor Grima.
I do just want to emphasize one point, and I think the deputy mayor mentioned it last week, and he alluded to it this week, but didn't quite come out and say it expressly, which is that the city of Pontiac government has currently no debt at all, which is extremely unusual for municipal governments. And so I think it's important also to keep that in mind when we talk about borrowing $15 million, is that our surrounding communities have much larger debt loads, almost uniformly.
And Mayor, you might be best to answer this question. If Grants and Philanthropy is able to secure a philanthropic donation from an individual, corporation, or a nonprofit or foundation, it would be able to shrink the amount of the general fund commitment depending on when that timeline hits. So it would be less of a burden or obligation. We're just not pre-counting that because it isn't dollars in the door, so to speak. But can you speak to that briefly? Because that was emphasized a lot last August.
That's exactly right. And we've already started having those conversations with philanthropic entities and foundations. But again, we don't want to count that yet because we don't yet have any of those dollars in the door.
Further, Councilwoman Jones.
Since we're on the topic right now, before you continue, Deputy Mayor, what is, I mean, if SEMCOG's predictions are correct and this tax-free borrowing opportunity, goes away, would the plan at that point be to, continue with that borrowing plan and, incur the cost, outcome at that point, or is there a plan B?
So that's a great question. The current plan would be to continue with borrowing. It would be more expensive. We do believe that we have the funding to do it, but I would say our plan is to issue the bonds before such time as the tax-free status is taken away so that we can take advantage of them at this rate.
That was actually my next question. So if we take advantage of this, or if we have the opportunity to take advantage of this before, it potentially goes away, are those changes likely to backdate? And I don't know who I'm yielding to right now, but,
Deputy Mayor can answer that.
Okay, so once it's set in stone, once you've...
Once the bonds are issued, they can't backdoor us and reestablish what the rate or the interest would be, if you can speak to that.
So I believe that is correct, but as I said, we do have our attorney on the line. Mr. Gallant, are you familiar with that part of the bonding?
No, that would be bond counsel opinion, but I would tend to agree, but I can't say for sure.
So we will confirm with bond counsel. Thank you, Mr.
And it's likely that some of those bond rating actions or those sort of preparing us as a municipality to make those decisions might come as early as the next city council meeting, March 18th. Is that still on track?
That is still on track.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, and Council President, you had a question, regarding philanthropic contributions, which we've previously discussed. So this building project, just for getting the building up, does not include the philanthropic contributions, meaning to me that those are not needed to get the building up. So if those are, obtained, or when those are obtained, is there room for those to be then allocated towards operational costs? Because that's where a lot of my concern goes. Getting the building up is one thing, and sustaining it and keeping, the city's financial state thriving is a whole separate, can of worms.
So that is a great question. The short answer to your question is yes. The longer answer to your question is when we did this and we were looking at the long-term trajectory of finances, we actually included in that $1.1 million, we actually included another couple $100,000 for depreciation cost, and really not true depreciation, not accounting depreciation, but maintenance of the asset over time, right? So if you build a building, eventually you're going to need to put a new roof on it. You're going to need to put a new boiler in it. We included money as an actual cost out of pocket and showed that even if we were paying that, we would still be in a strong financial position over time. And those are in further slides down the line. But as far as if we are able to raise any amount of money in philanthropy to help us pay for the building, that would mean that we either would borrow less money or we would borrow the same amount of money and use less of our cash, and then the money that we have raised we could use towards operations, as you stated.
Okay. I'll wait till you're done to ask my other question.
Okay. We'll keep moving?
Yes. All right, and so this just, again, shows our current cash balance right now in our general fund, $56 million. And so if we were to take $18 million out of that, brings us down to $38 million, which you can see is still a high point for the city of Pontiac's general fund balance over the last 6 years. This talks to the revenue versus expenditure, as I was saying. So the revenues are in blue, expenditures are in black, and the green shows that growth, that net of revenue over expenditure, almost $6 million, just $2 million, then $16 million, then $10 million, and we are on track this year, if our current spending and income ratios hold, to be another $10 million of revenue exceeding expenses. So this is looking at the amount of the general fund that can be spent on any activity that you would like. So you have the total fund balance and the unassigned fund balance. Right now, the majority of the assigned fund balance is that $3.2 million that has been set aside for the recreation center. Specifically, you can see that in looking at 2024, 2025, that is the major set aside that we have. Before that, you heard the mayor talk about the fact that the city has virtually no debt. What was being held out before were debt payments that are not there anymore. Here's the general fund coverage ratio. So generally speaking, municipalities try to keep by GFOA standards, Government Financial Officers Association standards, try to keep between 18 and 25% of the money that they need in their general fund balance. You can see that currently the city of Pontiac has 103% of the money that we need on a yearly basis in our general fund. That is not, from a strictly financial standpoint, that is not the best place for it, because cities are not allowed to invest in heavy securities, which means that it's not as if we are getting amazing returns in the stock market with our money. Now, our money is invested and we are getting the best returns that we can, but it is not as if we are the Wolf of Wall Street and, bringing in tens and 20s of millions of dollars. And that's because they're just laws that work against us being able to invest in those more dangerous securities. And so for that reason, most municipalities, and you can see back in 21 and 22, City of Pontiac was still over the industry standard mark, but we were much closer to where most municipalities try to keep their actual cash balance, because it's not really liquid cash is not the best investment for municipalities. And we can see this when we look at our neighboring communities. With the exception of Auburn Hills, they are mostly around that area that we spoke of. You can see some of them are a little more conservative in the 40s. Now, I do want to talk about the anomaly that is at Auburn Hills at 127%. If you were to speak with our neighbors there, they will tell you that they have a 5-year capital plan, and if you look out, they've been saving up that money to put down on specific investments, and that 127% is going to come down over the next 5 years to be in line with the GFOA standards. This is an excerpt from the letter that we got from our bonding agency, and that's Baird. And this just talks about the fact that the city could borrow the money needed for this project, and it tells you that if we did that over the 20-year period, gives us a payback of just over $1.1 million at an estimated interest rate currently around 4%. And the letter also goes on to talk about the fact that the city of Pontiac currently, because of our financial health, would be at the bonds would be at a AA insurance rating, which is a great position to be in. And additionally, the letter talks about, this is just an excerpt of it, but the entire letter talks about the fact that the city could actually borrow well over $15 million and still be at that AA bond rating. I thought that this slide was very important because what this slide does is it says, okay, we can make this investment now, today, in 2025, but how long would it be if the economy were to turn topsy-turvy? And what do I mean by that? If we only increased our revenues by 2% a year, but we increased our expenses by 4% a year, and we added on this $1.1 million of expenses, and also we included in that $1.1 million a certain amount for depreciation of the building. How long would it be before we actually had a situation where expenses overtook revenues? We would have to go all the way out to 2032 before that happened. And that's assuming the worst equations. And even then, we still have a fund balance that we can eat into over time. We can make adjustments. So if we see this happening, we can make adjustments. We can make cuts. We can make changes. But the point of this slide is to demonstrate that all things being equal as far as our operations and the economy taking an immediate turn for the worse and staying there, it would have to stay in the worst for 7 years before we got to a situation where expenses eclipsed revenues.
And that would be if there were no reductions in expenditures, no changes in overhead. So there's obviously many scenarios where future city councils can course correct, but there'd still be a substantial general fund balance.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You had a hand?
Yes, and I just want to add, so basically that graph just demonstrates your forecasting.
Yes, sir.
Of what can possibly happen if things don't change along that course until 2032.
That is correct.
Okay.
Councilwoman James?
Yeah, and it's also projecting at the current existing income stream, and it's projecting the worst-case scenario. Which,
Yes, ma'am.
You know, which is not really, looking at today's world, the worst case. But anyway, the existing income stream we know that is not going to stay the way that it is because we have the major change of Oakland County bringing 500 to 700, even though that's going to take place incrementally and over time, but we do know that they are bringing 500 to 700 new employees who will be paying city taxes. So we you know, even though you're basing this on existing income streams, the fact is that our income streams are projected to increase.
Yes.
Because of that fact, because, you know, 500 to 700 people paying city income tax is not a small amount. That's a significant amount of income.
Yes, ma'am. If I were to use not even, so I used a very pessimistic model here. If we were to use not even a truly very optimistic model, just if we were to take the existing model. Let's see here. So if we were to take the existing, where is it at? So if we were to take the existing model and we can see how we've been growing our revenues over time. And if we were to extrapolate that out without thinking about the fact that we're going to have a large number of new employees from the county moving into the city of Pontiac and now paying Pontiac taxes. Not thinking about the multi-million-dollar housing projects that have been slated for the community. Not thinking about other business growth that is slated to happen because of what the Economic Development Department is doing. If we just took that model and extrapolated it, it would be well over 7 years before expenses eclipsed revenues, because we would still be operating in a situation where revenues are out, the growth of revenue is outpacing the growth of expense.
That's essentially the point that I'm trying to make. I think your model is, which I understand, you want it to be as conservative as possible.
Yes, ma'am.
But the reality is that, the trajectory is a lot more positive than that.
Yes, it is.
A lot more positive.
Not baked into this equation, but will be a reality, is that this will be a quality facility that community members are going to want to rent. And there will be a revenue stream with facility rentals that, we can't bake the whole cake with those numbers because it's not yet known. But that will be a reality that future city councils and future mayors are going to have to assess when we're budgeting. What's the practical impact? We can't bake the whole cake with that future revenue, but that will be a future revenue stream that, as year over year, we'll get a better sense of what's the actual revenue stream that the facility rentals of parts of this facility can generate. Councilwoman James? Oh, I'm sorry. Was it on that point?
Did you have your hand up?
I don't know who went first, but
Was it on that topic? Was it on that topic? Okay. Were you trying to bring up something specific?
Yeah, I was just going to say, looking at the public comment that we got, or the comments when we did because I was
Outreach.
at several of the community outreach, and everyone was so sincere. But one of the things that really stuck with me is that, over and over again, you heard people say, we want a building we can be proud of. We can take pride in that this is ours. And the residents of Pontiac have been trying to get this for so long, to get something nice for ourselves. And so I think it's really important for us to give people what they want. This is what they have asked for. They asked the city, do not take one of these old school buildings and slap some stuff in it and give us that as a rec center. We want something new. We want something that we can be proud of.
Yes, ma'am.
Councilwoman Jones.
You mentioned that those projections were from a more pessimistic standpoint. Does that also include I was going to say potential, but does that also include the changes that could and likely may occur at the federal level? Because I would feel that we are in like a state of political instability when it comes to federal changes and things that are, happening left and right. And I know it may be difficult to predict what might change at the federal level, but I'm wondering if this presentation does account for immediate changes that could happen in effect. I know you mentioned the bonding. I mean, that wasn't necessarily calculated here. That's why I asked about, a plan B. So have you taken, a trip down that avenue?
Yeah. Yes. All right. So, as we already discussed, we did not anticipate, this presentation does not anticipate the change in tax status of bonding, because as Council President stated, it is our intent to bring forward the resolution to begin the bonding process next week. So we believe that we would have our bonds in place before that particular thing could happen. As far as the rest of the world goes, one of the reasons why we, and later, directly after this, you will be talking about finishing with the architect and then bringing on the construction manager at risk. One of the reasons why we are asking to bring on the construction manager at risk at this point is because we cannot get to a not to exceed value of the building until we actually designate a construction manager and ask them and task them with going out and saying, you have all of the specs and designs, you know what we want to build, how much is it going to actually cost you to build this building? The sooner they do that, the sooner they get their subs tied in to a price, the better it is for us because of the exact unrest that you're talking about. We don't know if prices are going to jump up. We don't know if prices are going to stay flat. We don't know if there's going to be some thing that happens that causes the building market to crash and prices are going to tumble. Because we just don't know, because it's political unrest, and political unrest can make any one of those things happen. And so knowing what we know now, we have an idea of what it would probably cost, and so we want to lock in that as our maximum price.
Pro Tem Carrington?
Yes, thank you, President McGinnis. This is going to basically be my last statement concerning this presentation. But I always think about what are the advantages and the disadvantages of such a decision. And I think about the school district, as myself and President McGinnis actually was part of those decisions when it come to the school district going out for bonds to help it build the new football stadium. And my concerns then was the cost of the stadium and could we actually use those funds in other avenues to foster educational advancement. The community didn't want us to rubber stamp the old stadium. My suggestion was to let we go into that stadium, we take $2 or $3 million, we upgrade that stadium. Community definitely didn't want that. And I didn't understand that because I thought the history of that stadium was history, right? And I think about Atwood Stadium in Flint and how we played in that stadium, and we look forward to standing in that stadium with the previous great athletes. But for some reason, the community didn't want us to go in to repair that stadium. And I wasn't on board until I saw the happiness of the community coming together the first time that the new stadium opened in the city of Pontiac. And I didn't see that, and I didn't see that most of those times I sat on that board, I didn't see why that was so important. So my last statement to this council is that the advantages of following through, it doesn't lock us in. I just want to say that. And the next administration or the next council can implement changes in how they see fit. But I do want to keep, but I'm not going to sit here for the next 8 years and not do anything because it's an election year. I'm not. I just will stay home. So I hope that we continue to take care of the business of the city. And I may lose the vote today, and it's okay, because I lost other votes in the past. I don't take it personal. But building a youth center for this community promotes health and well-being for our residents. We got so many comorbidities when it comes to health issues in our community. It supports youth development. We just seen Quest come in here tonight, and we clapping. Yeah. We happy. We seen this previous when we bring our youth in. Yeah. Many of us stood out at the polls the day that the youth millage was passed. We worked on those polls. Some elected officials didn't believe it, didn't care for it. Some did, right? Just like the school district millages. Some elected officials supported it. Myself and ex-pro tem Carter definitely supported the school district in that. And again, others didn't. I can actually call their names, but I won't, because that's not what I'm here to cause any more division. It's foster cultural diversity and inclusion. Oh, I bet I say diversity and inclusion in this administration, so I apologize for that. But it does support that. Support civil engagement, which is something that we don't have in our community. And it's an economic value. As you said earlier, you don't know the numbers of organizations renting out key space. And also, when we actually sit down and start looking at it, depending on what events, that sometimes we can charge small donational fees to help in the overall cost. I really think it's our time. we ask you for a plan of financing, and you done that. Some people don't understand bonds, and I understand that. But I've always been told if I'm gonna build a mansion, I should use somebody else's money instead of using my own money.
Yeah.
Even when I bought my house in the city of Pontiac, I used my own money. I wish I hadn't, just to be truthful, because my bank income came down, and then I had some other major issues that I had to work hard to make sure I maintained my own resident. So that's my pitch for the rec center. I know that incoming mayoral candidates next year, whoever it is, I know that some of them will continue that same fight to get this done. And if they don't want it, then they can hatch it out and say no. They can hatch it out and say no. But as I came into office, and if I'm voted off because I make a decision to vote for something that I know a community wants and needs, then I'll take that. And that's how I will close.
Any further discussion on this special presentation? Otherwise, we'll move into discussing the action items related. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you.
We are at number 7 on the agenda. It's a resolution that's previously been before us, but it was postponed. It's approving a contract amendment with Racer MRSA doing the architectural and design work. This really is a ratification of something City Council already set in motion. This contract is based on the initial estimate of, before it went through the design phase, of $25 million. Then it came to City Council to say, here's the menu of different versions. This was in August, from $25 million up to $50 million. A lot of residents said we want the $50 million, but that was vetted, debated at length, a lot of feedback from residents. City Council voted for the version that was the $37 million version. This firm has done that design work because the City Council said design to this target for this version. And so now we are going to follow through and say, yes, we're going to amend our contract to reflect what we set in motion, which we said we want you to design to. It was moved by Councilman Goodman and seconded by Councilwoman James at a previous meeting to adopt this resolution. I just want to confirm, since it's been so many weeks, do you still make that motion, Councilman Goodman?
Yes.
Do you still make that second, Councilwoman James?
Yes.
Okay, so the record can reflect that this is a resolution that Councilman Goodman moves and Councilwoman James seconds. Is there any discussion about this contract amendment? Councilwoman James.
Yes, there has been misinformation around this vote tonight. Even tonight, the thinking is that we should turn this down as though we are voting for the Youth Rec Center itself. We voted in August. All of those options were shown in a presentation. We had probably a 2-hour discussion on those various options, and option 3B, I believe, was selected at a cost of $37 million. So that's a done deal. What we are doing tonight is, as President McGinnis said, we are just working to update that contract because the initial contract was based on a $25 million price tag, and what we chose that night in August was a $37 million. So we need to adjust the contract for our design staff. Now, to not do that is a default. And is that what we as a city want to do? Do we want to set that kind of an example that we make decisions one day and the next day it's something different? No, we have to follow through with the decisions that have been made. And so I have every intention of voting yes, and as Pro Tem Carrington says, whatever that means in terms of, what people think, I believe you should keep your obligations. I believe I was elected to
make decisions in the best interests of the residents of this city. And it is not in our best interests to default on a contract.
Further discussion on the motion? Councilman Goodman?
Yeah, so I want to speak to this because in these past couple weeks, I've had time to go talk to my own residents, to talk to multiple different people across the city, both in terms of their background, whether they be renters, homeowners, people who have grandkids, people who are young parents who are now owning their home. And of course, my postponing of this was for the concern of making sure that we could be able to do this, but also having the time to be able to talk to the people in the community who will actually have to deal with whatever we decide to do. The long term of the center, whether or not there are or are not raises in taxes, and uniformly across the board, every person that I spoke to said that us building this rec center is a good thing. Not only that, there were people who looked at me when I asked the question, well, what if it raised taxes? They legit looked at me and said, I don't care if it raises taxes. I'm tired of driving to other cities for my kids. So in the universe in which we are not raising taxes, in the universe in which, many people in the community are very much looking forward to us actually having a community center, while we are in the position to be able to take advantage of the tax systems that are set up for us with these tax-free municipal bonds, I think we would be in a really bad place to not follow through on this. Specifically because, regardless of what anyone else says in this audience, I've gone out and talked to people. I've called people. I've talked to people to say, hey, well, do you know anyone who has opinions on this? I've taken this time, and it's been shown to me that people want this to be done. But even beyond that, the vote tonight, as Councilwoman James says, does not concrete us in to the full price of this center. There is still time for us to be able to make these updates and changes if they need to be made. But as someone who tries my best to listen to the people who are in the city, not just in my district, but across the city, people want the center to be done. So I'll leave it there.
Councilwoman Jones?
Thank you. I think it's worth, and it may have been done while I stepped out, but I think it's worth recapping that we've taken a lot of steps to get here. The McCarroll School was demolished successfully and is, waiting for this new building. Now, I know that I previously voted no to proceed with the contract amendment. And at that time, I was not comfortable pushing it forward because of the one primary question: can we afford it? Now, same as Councilman Goodman, I have also recently, thanks to the weather, have been out and have spoken with many District 2 residents. I've been on the phone, et cetera, et cetera. The one question I get is, can we afford it? And my answer is yes, I think that we can. I think that it's going to take an evaluation from council as a whole to prioritize what projects we are pushing forward and supporting and which projects can wait for a future council, which, very well may be just a different date. And so to have this space ready for the building, to still not truly know what it's going to cost, which we need to know before we move forward. I think we can all agree there. And to know that there's no time like the present, and considering the shift in, well, I was going to say the economy, but in political status, I think, as well as I think other council members are thinking now, this is the time to proceed. And just as many as you know, when you sit in these seats, there's always a chance someone may not agree with what you say or what you do. But I am here to do what's in the best interest of the city and District 2. And District 2 children, as well as my own, need this rec center. I'm going to leave it at that.
Councilman Parker, Pro Tem Carrington, Councilman Goodman. Councilman Parker moves to end the speakers list and move into debate. Is there a second?
Support.
It's been moved by Councilman Parker, seconded by Councilman Goodman to end the speakers list and to call for the vote. Roll call, Deputy Clerk, on whether we should vote.
Goodman,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Carrington.
Yes.
6 yeas.
That motion carries, so speakers list is ended, and we now have the question before us, moved by Councilman Goodman, seconded by Councilwoman James. The motion is approving the Racer MRSA contract amendment to reflect the council-directed scope of design work. Roll call, Deputy Clerk, on adoption of that resolution.
Carrington,
Yes.
Goodman,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
6 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. What was already authorized by the City of Pontiac can have the contract reflected. All right, we're at number 8. Is there a motion from a council member to adopt the resolution to approve the mayor or deputy mayor to execute AIA A133-2019?
So moved.
The agreement for Clark White, a joint venture to provide pre-construction and construction manager at-risk services, CMAR services, for the new new youth center design project. It was moved by Councilwoman Jones. Is there a second? Pardon me. It's been moved by Councilwoman Jones, seconded by Councilwoman James. This was previously discussed at other city council meetings. This does not obligate the price lock-in, but it allows them, as the deputy mayor shared, to do that cost computation of what will the supplies, what will the construction cost. So this is an important step to allow this or future councils to know what all in is the price in real and changing terms. Deputy Mayor Stevens, is there anything else you want to break it down?
Yes, thank you, Council President. We do have a representative of Clark White Construction in the audience with us today if you have any more specific questions for him about how the process works. But essentially, I already presented what I wanted to present on this item.
Okay. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sticking through it. If you could take the podium and help, pardon me, the council and community understand what the joint venture's work would be undertaking.
So the contract right now would be adopting the language. It would lock in our fee percentages, our insurance percentages and everything. So when the project moves forward, that's all locked in. But this would get us to the point where we fully bid out the project to all the local trades and suppliers. We go through all those numbers, vet everything out, and then we come up with what we call the guaranteed maximum price. Once all those documents are together, that is presented to the city, whatever that total number is, all inclusive. And at that point, you would be voting to do an amendment to our contract to actually put that cost of work in our contract. So the contract in front of you is not locking into any construction costs. It is literally just pushing us through the process to bid the project out and get actual hard numbers from contractors and suppliers.
Very straightforward. Councilwoman James, and then Pro Tem, was that a hand? Oh, no, okay. Councilwoman James, you have the floor.
Yeah, I was looking at I thought we already had a contract with you. I thought that we had signed something in May of 2024. I'm wondering, what is the difference between what we're voting on tonight and what we originally agreed to when we brought, when we selected, Clark as our CMARs?
So for the pre-construction, there was a separate, it was like a two-part award. There was we offered a $20,000 lump sum to do all the pre-construction work to get us to this point.
Okay.
And then the second part of that was we provided staffing fees and all of that to actually manage the construction of the project from the time, everything was awarded on. So the only thing that had been approved to date was the $20,000 for pre-construction services.
Okay. Okay, because I think that's not clear to a lot of people because you guys have been on board throughout the whole design process, but that was the pre-construction is what we approved before, and now we are approving the construction part of it to where you actually give us the estimates for the cost of construction.
This is where we lock in and end up at a guaranteed maximum price, hopefully in the August timeframe.
Okay.
Further discussion? Councilwoman Jones.
Wait, could you repeat that last sentence? You said by August timeframe?
Yeah,
you
so
would have-
the final construction documents, design documents will be done around the beginning of June, and then we'll put it out to bid, get all the numbers in, and then sometime around early August, we'll have all that compiled, reviewed, and be ready to present that guaranteed maximum price.
Oh, I misheard you. Thank you
Sorry.
for clarifying that.
Further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, speakers list exhausted. Roll call, Deputy Clerk, on the resolution to approve the mayor or deputy mayor to execute AIA A133-2019 agreement for Clark White, a joint venture to provide pre-construction and construction manager at risk CMAR services for the new youth center design project.
James,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Carrington,
Yes.
Goodman.
Yes.
6 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. The resolution is adopted. Thank you very much for being here tonight, and we look forward to continue to collaborate to get a better sense of what's before us. We're at number 9 on the agenda. Is there a motion to adopt a resolution determining a future name of the roadway currently known as the northbound Woodward Loop?
So move.
Is there a second? It's been moved by Councilwoman Jones, seconded by Councilman Parker. It's now before us. We do not need to vote on it tonight. We can keep the conversation going. We haven't heard too much feedback yet, but what is now the northbound Woodward Loop will no longer be the northbound Woodward Loop because it will no longer be a one-way loop. So Woodward will continue on the Cass Avenue, the Woodward Avenue southbound side, and they need a name for the part that's right in front of this building for a few blocks. One name in consideration is what previously was the name in the 1960s and before was Park Street, P-A-R-K-E. But what's also proposed would be a roadway honoring the namesake for our city of Chief Pontiac Boulevard. And I see a hand of Pro Tem Carrington.
Yes, I haven't got much feedback on either one of these street names. So is it possible that our communications department can set up a survey and we can get that out to the community and get feedback?
We can ask.
Okay.
We can ask. Other discussion from council members? Councilwoman James.
Yeah, I also suggested that we possibly need to do a public hearing on this before we vote on it, to just allow our residents to kind of talk a little bit about how they feel about it.
Okay. Do you want to try and do that at next week's city council meeting?
If possible, but I think a public hearing would be good to allow the citizens to make their comments about which one of these we should choose.
Okay. Yeah, our target is to have the information by April. So, we've got a few weeks. So that way the state project doesn't get too far down the road and they start locking in with road names if we don't want that to be the road name anymore, so to speak, is important. Councilman?
What do we have time now to request a public hearing for our next meeting? Is there still time to do that?
No problem. We would just inform the clerk's office and they would, sort of get that information out there.
Okay.
And we would share that with communications as well.
I think, from my perspective, I think both names are good, but I think when we look at the city of Pontiac, and I think the Chief Pontiac Boulevard has more advantage because Pontiac is such a historic city. So it picks up on our history. It also, as we all know, we have to do something with the Chief Pontiac statue that's there at the beginning of Wide Track. It would allow, it absolutely would fit into us relocating that statue to in front of City Hall and calling that street Chief Pontiac Boulevard. So it ticks a lot of boxes, I think, for the city, master plan wise. We're focusing on our historical roots. So I think it does have a lot of positives about it. But I would love to see the community weigh in on it more before I make a decision on it.
Very good. Pro Tem?
Yes, and I agree with everyone. Definitely a survey instrument. We can reach more people. those that are not come down here to City Hall. So I'm hoping that we can do both so we can get some feedback.
All right. Any other discussion? Hearing none, let's do a motion to postpone this resolution for 1 week. I'm sorry, I didn't hear the second? Okay, it's moved by Pro Tem Carrington, seconded by Councilman Parker. Roll call on that postponement of the renaming or the naming decision for the former northbound Woodward Loop. Deputy Clerk?
McGinnis?
Yes to postpone.
Parker?
Yes.
Carrington?
Yes.
Goodman?
Yes.
James?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
6 yeas, no nays.
Okay. That motion to postpone carries. We're now at number 10. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution authorizing the First Amendment to the contract with Clark Hill PLC?
Moved by Carrington.
Is there a second?
Support.
Moved by Pro Tem Carrington, second by Councilman Parker. It's now before us. Mayor or Deputy Mayor, any reflections on the First Amendment request for the Clark Hill contract?
Well, I want to give an opportunity, if she's on the line, for Beth McDonald to explain the changes, but this is really about renewing the contract and ensuring that we can continue to work with Clark Hill. Do you have anything to add, Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. Attorney McDonald is not on the line with us tonight, but as the mayor said, this is an extension of the contract with Clark Hill. And directly after this, we have the same thing, an extension of the contract with the Kelly firm. Those are the two outside law firms that we do all of our work with. Clark Hill does our general work, and the Kelly firm does our prosecutions, and you see them frequently here with specific work that they do for the Community Development Department. Both of these extensions take them out far enough that we can continue to work with them, but leave the ability for the next council or this council, if it so chooses, to once again go through an RFP process if they wanted to change attorneys.
Any discussion? Councilwoman James.
Yeah, my one question is, does this contract amendment exceed the budgeted amount for this fiscal year for legal services?
No, this does not increase or exceed the budget. It just allows us to have a current active contract with each of the firms.
Okay.
Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, roll call, Deputy Clerk, on the resolution authorizing the First Amendment to the contract with Clark Hill PL. Oh, you have a question?
Just quick. I'm so sorry.
Pro Tem.
Yes. Deputy Mayor, concerning the purchase division, now have we, because I know this was initially to help support that department. So where are we at with this department, hopefully after this extension, being able to handle all this on their own?
Great question, Councilman Pro Tem, but these are the law contracts, not the purchasing consulting group.
Okay. Thank you for that correction.
Okay. All right. Hearing no further discussion, roll call, Deputy Clerk, on the resolution authorizing the First Amendment to the contract with Clark Hill PLC.
Parker?
Yes.
Carrington?
Yes.
Goodman?
Yes.
James?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
6 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. The resolution is adopted. We're at number 11 on the agenda. Is there a motion to adopt that resolution?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Councilwoman Jones, seconded by Councilwoman James. It's a resolution authorizing the First Amendment to the contract with the Kelly firm. Deputy Mayor, anything you want to expound on further, although it follows and mirrors the similar action we just took?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I will say that I think it's been very effective for city operations to have the Kelly Law Firm, who've been running point on a lot of the enforcement actions with code enforcement in the district courts. They've also done a lot of work in terms of ordinances related to community development, housing, planning, And I think that based on what I've seen, that the Kelly firm has been able to provide quality service and expand our capacity because for what we've been able to get through the many actions of code enforcement into the district courts has made Pontiac's code enforcement operation stronger. So I just want to acknowledge their service, and I hope that that can continue. Any further discussion on the contract with the Kelly Law Firm? Hearing none, roll call, clerk, deputy clerk on adoption of the resolution.
Carrington,
Yes.
Goodman,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
6 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. The resolution is adopted. That concludes the resolutions portions of the agenda. I will say as a housekeeping item, they are very, very lengthy, but if anyone wants to see copies of the contract, the body of the contract that accompanies resolution number 8, we do have that, AIA document A133-2019, in terms of the pre-construction and construction manager at-risk action that City Council approved this evening. All right. We are at number 12 on the agenda. March is Women's History Month. You've seen the History Makers exhibit that City Council has facilitated up at City Hall, going up at senior centers as well. 4 City Council members, Goodman, Parker, James, and Carrington, have approved for their district project funds to fund a Women's History Month luncheon. It's on Friday, March 28th from 12 to 2 p.m. at the Ruth Peterson Senior Center. We want to make sure the community knows if you'd like to participate in the Women's History Month luncheon at no cost to Pontiac residents, sign up in person at the Ruth Peterson Senior Center or at the Bowen Senior Center. Councilwoman Rutherford is also doing for her district, a Women's History Month luncheon on Sunday the 29th. And for that reason, she will not have a district meeting for the month of March because they're focusing their efforts on a Women's History Month luncheon. Any other discussion about Women's History Month and those luncheon offerings? Hearing none, next discussion, City's Retirees Expanded Benefit Status Update. Mayor, do you have any update you'd like to share with the community?
I do have a brief update. Again, as I've mentioned in the past, we initially had an agreement with Cypria going back to last late spring or very early summer that involved providing the supplemental benefit to retirees, and it was clearly applying it just to the retirees. Several months after that, as we were going through obtaining the legally required actuarial cost study for providing that supplemental benefit to the retirees, Cypria said that they wanted it to apply not just to the retirees, but also to retirees' beneficiaries. We then, in the interest of good faith, agreed with Cypria on a formula to do that, but GERS indicated that they didn't have enough information and data on each of the retirees to implement what Cypria and the city agreed to. So we are now looking at another way to do that that does not rely on the individual data of each and every beneficiary or retiree. So it would be an across-the-board formula to apply some amount of supplemental benefit to beneficiaries. And I did talk with the actuary last week, and she believes that she'll have some options that we can go to Cypria with that will be actuarially equivalent in cost to what was previously agreed to by either the end of this month or early April. So we hope to have some specific options that we can run by Cypria, and hopefully we can get this thing put to bed.
And engaged in a lot of different conversations, council leadership is very optimistic that there's so much work that's gone into the negotiations to this point that a conclusion of the deal is very close at hand, which is extremely promising. One challenge, though, is that there's tens of millions that have been set aside that haven't been distributed back to the VEBA per the 2018 settlement agreement that the judge issued, where all was supposed to go to the VEBA. That money set aside makes up the bulk of what would make this supplemental $400 a month benefit possible. My understanding is that at recent weeks, the VIVA board has voted to say they wish to, in the near future, pursue prompting or making that transfer happen, which is a challenge. But Mayor, can you shed light on where that stands or what the timeline for that potential movement may be?
Yeah, the VIVA has consulted with an attorney, but they have not actually moved forward as of this date with filing a lawsuit or anything along those lines. And I think they understand that doing so would probably be a poison pill to actually instituting the supplemental benefit, because GERS's position and the city's position is that we need some of those funds that remain in old GERS to fund that supplemental benefit. And so if VIVA were to actually get a court order transferring all of those to the VIVA, a supplemental benefit would no longer be possible. And so I do think that although VIVA is indicating that, there is an interest on the part of some of the members of the VIVA board who also are involved with Cypria to avert that and instead reach an agreement with the city.
Okay. Councilwoman James, you had a hand?
Yes, I'd like to know the status of the joint meeting that administration agreed to have to get Cypria, to get GERS, as well as the administration together in the same room. Has that happened, or are there still plans to make that happen?
So City Council leadership, in consultation with the mayor's office, reached out to all the parties to schedule that. With all the different schedules, they weren't able to find a time where they both could happen or all happen at once. So the mayor and council leadership was able to meet with representatives with GERS, with the city's attorneys, and then I was able to meet with Cypria representatives before the president of Cypria traveled out of state. But we are going to schedule a virtual, still that sort of session. I was aiming to schedule that when we might have those actuary reports back in the coming days or weeks, so that way there's something substantive to talk about at that meeting of the minds. Because we did not know with as much clarity that we have today about the GERS actuary, Ms. Gates, providing those funding projections for us to consider those and really restart the negotiations with Cypria on that final stipulation.
Okay.
Councilwoman James?
I just want to ensure that we do not continue with everybody's got a different story. That I think we're all done with it. We want to hear the facts. We want to hear the truth. We want to hear what is the real status of this problem, because it's got to get fixed. And I don't want to see anybody else coming saying, this is what it is, we're doing this, city's done that. We need the facts, and the city's not the only one involved in this. Cypria's involved, they have a part, GERDS have a part, the administration has a part, and we need one update. We don't need to hear from 3 different people, 3 different scenarios. We want one update that's trustworthy.
That's right. So that way City Council, as soon as it's in a position, we can act, and we don't need to relitigate or rehash the reality.
Yeah.
That's very well put. Any further discussion? We'll keep this conversation going. Councilwoman Jones.
Just wondering, do you have a follow-up meeting scheduled with either GERS or Cypria? You mentioned that you and...
Not scheduled, no.
But
I would be scheduling that when I have a better sense of when that actuarial report might come back.
Okay.
But so it would be forecasting a week or 2 ahead of that.
Okay.
Yeah. Anything else from anyone? Hearing none. The next discussion, hiring of vacant position status update. Mayor, is there anything you want the council or community to know in terms of the filling of vacant positions? Last week, City Council voted to approve the new DPW director, and if you want to give an update on him starting.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to share. The new DPW director, Larry Searles, started last Thursday, so just 2 days after City Council confirmed his appointment. He's hit the ground running and is already making some positive progress happen within the DPW department. I think folks are aware that the previous building official is no longer working with the city. The assistant building official is serving as the acting building official currently, and will be posting that position imminently in the coming days.
Councilwoman Jones.
Just want to briefly express heartfelt disappointment and sorrow for losing Brusac. I think he was very valuable to the team, and I hope that someone comparable will come along very soon.
Thank you. Further discussion on vacant positions? Is the Parks Manager position presently posted still? Is that the administration's understanding?
I believe that the Parks Manager position was temporarily taken down as the Parks and Rec Director is actually evaluating the resumes that came in.
Okay. Thank you. We'll follow up further offline. Hearing no further discussion on discussion number 14, we're at number 15. Just a FYI that the Phoenix Center demolition is anticipated to begin in the coming weeks. Road closures at Woodward Loop for Auburn and Orchard Lake will happen at that time. You've seen the fencing go up. I heard from Oakland County leadership yesterday that they'll be wrapping the fence or adding some sort of visuals of the fence that will communicate in part the timeline for the project. And also to make sure that those that travel on the east side know that Auburn Avenue will be under construction for the whole length, from downtown to Opdyke, but will still be open and accessible to traffic. There'll just be some lane shifts that happen. Any discussion on that motion? Or not motion, but the discussion. Councilwoman Jones. Oh, I'm sorry. Any further discussion on that? We'll keep, as soon as we know more concrete dates, pun not intended, then we'll share that with you. All right, we're at number 16, a reminder of applications currently being accepted for the City of Pontiac's Senior Chore Program and the Carbon Monoxide Detector Program. We want to make sure that if residents are interested in those programs, application opportunity exists now. And for that Carbon Monoxide Detector Program, you can also get smoke detectors as well, and there is no income requirement. It is as many residents as possible, that's my understanding. So pursue that opportunity. Any discussion on that reminder? Councilwoman Jones.
Just a quick question about how long are they scheduling out now for installing?
The question that Councilwoman Jones has asked is how long are they out now in terms of if they're calling to schedule? I don't want to guess. It seems like it's been a pretty quick turnaround, but.
Okay. Well,
okay, they're going to get that information and report back to council.
thank you. That's all.
Hearing no final discussion on that item. The final discussion, Councilman James added the excessive streetlight outages as a discussion. I will highlight the first communication below, that City Council has formally requested a presentation from the administration at next week's council meeting to address the continuing problem of sections of streetlight outages on Pontiac's major thoroughfares, and asking for the community and council to understand the next steps and timelines for solutions. But that'll be a segue about what we're expecting and what our needs are. Councilwoman James, you have the floor with the discussion.
Yeah, I just want to raise that issue because it really is a public safety issue now for District 4. I would say over 60% of our main corridors are dark. Joslyn, Walton Boulevard, Baldwin, just it's ridiculous. And, you know, I've never seen it this bad, so it says to me that there's a special cause. Something's going on that, you know, we normally don't have, that does not normally happen. So the fact that we have these outages, the fact that we have been so slow in addressing them is a real concern, because I think weeks ago, when we had this as a discussion item, I talked about and gave the specific address of Baldwin, not Baldwin, but yes, Baldwin from Walton Boulevard to Columbia, and that's still out. So one of the things that really concerns me is that when you report these to DPW, there's absolutely no feedback as to, okay, and that has not always been the case. We have had DPW directors who have responded and said, okay, that's been reported. They said they're going to be able to get to it then. And so that's not happening anymore. We get absolutely no feedback about light outages at all. And that's unacceptable because you assume, you report them and you assume somebody's working on them. A month goes by and absolutely nothing has changed.
Mayor Grimel? Mayor Grimel, followed by Pro Tem Carrington.
Yeah, I want to begin by acknowledging, Councilwoman, that you sent an email Sunday night and did not get a response from DPW yet. I will note that our new DPW director just started Thursday. I know he's drinking from a fire hose right now and is probably behind on some of his emails.
I recognize
that. But we will make sure that you get a detailed response. The other thing that's more substantive in nature I want to mention is that, as council knows, we increased the contract limit for these repairs so that work could continue. I think that was back at the first meeting in February that we did that. Don't quote me on that. And I will say that the contractor has been doing work since that time. There are enough, and I don't know about the specific streets in your district. We'll get an answer to that, Councilwoman. But I will say that a lot of the street lights need underground directional boring. That takes time. And so some lights were quickly restored because they didn't have that problem. That's true of a lot of the lights, not all of them, but a lot of the lights, most of the lights on Huron. It was true of lights on Orchard Lake. But there are other areas that we were told are going to take about 4 weeks from when they started work, which was the end of February, early March. So, and that's because of the directional boring that's needed on some of these outages. The other thing that I do want to emphasize is that in addition to the increased limit on the repair contract, we do have a $1 million grant that is being delivered to DTE to do more comprehensive repairs on streetlights. That includes transitioning more of the lights to energy efficient LED lights, as well as in some cases replacing poles or putting up new poles.
Pro Tem Carrington.
Oh, yes, thank you, President McGinnis. And I want to add, I know that on several occasions, University Avenue has been reported as well as Perry Road. And I would just want to, if we can get an update on what's been repaired and what's not, I think that'll give us, as well as the residents, a sense of something that's happening. I think the issue is that we drive me coming into Pontiac late and we see all these lights out. And it's very dangerous. Because sometimes people are parking on the wrong side of the street and you make these turns and you don't see those cars parked in the wrong spot. So definitely if we can get some kind of report of what's been done and what's been reported so we can actually talk to the residents of our districts.
Councilman Parker.
Thank you. And I think one of the things that would help is as residents are calling this information in, that someone would be able to respond to the residents themselves and let them know we got the message and there is help on the way at some point. Because what I'm hearing is they call and nobody responds. So now they're mad because nobody actually communicates to them where we are in this. And I notice what everybody else has said, but just a call would say we got your message would help go a long way to assuage some of the frustration that the community is dealing with this problem as we try to address it.
Councilwoman James.
Yeah, I want to go back to item 17 in communications because I really think what we have here is serious enough that we need a full presentation of what are the problems that they are uncovering because, again, with the amount of outages, and this is my 4th year in office, and we've always had outages, 1 or 2. But nothing like what I've seen now. So there's something going on, and we really need we need those, that contractor to actually either he should come or someone who can represent what they're doing should come and explain what is going on with the lighting, with the light fixtures in the city, and really just give us a good with a list of all the ones they have worked on, a full list of what's been reported to them. We need to understand some kind of status here because it's really out of control. So will administration be able to provide that, number 17?
We can certainly provide it. I want to make sure before I promise for the March 18th meeting that just that people are available to be here and present. But
Well,
at a minimum,
Patrick Mueller did present at the last Parks, Recreation, and Public Works Subcommittee, so he is very much aware of the problem. He's the Assistant DPW Director.
I know who he is.
Any further discussion on this topic? I will, yeah, that is a formal request of City Council for March 18th. We previously have adopted a number of resolutions identifying the sections of the major thoroughfares. Obviously, we want every neighborhood to be well lit and like nicely, consistently lit. It's just especially concerning when the major corridors, because so many people are impacted, and they would be at, drivers are often at rates of speed that a pedestrian could be seriously injured or killed. We did have a pedestrian killed on Baldwin within the last few nights. I cannot state that it would be streetlight outages that played a factor because it's not already in a section that I'm aware of that had outages, but it just demonstrates the seriousness in which a well-lit corridor can have real life implications. So we want to make sure that when we can and as fast as we can. For the east side, I've put it in resolutions, but just want to make another pitch again that Auburn Avenue between MLK and Francis has been out for many, many weeks. MLK has been out from Elms Street to South Boulevard, or at least most of those lights have been out for at least a week. And so we'll keep scouring those. And I just want to emphasize, Councilwoman James, private eye, in her time went and canvassed every major street in her district and documented that, and I just want to thank you for doing that, because especially for some staff that isn't here at night, they're not going to see it, but it's really, really crucial. If you know that a street light is out in front of your home or your business, report it. Don't just assume that there's some really high-tech, master diagnostic map where they know, oh, Northway went out in that one spot. They're not going to know. You are there, you're living it, you're there at night. Please report it so that way it's on the radar ASAP and we can push it forward to be addressed. Because if it is a major problem that takes a long time, we want to get that ordered. We want to get that in the pipeline of being corrected so that way it doesn't stay that way forever. The neighborhoods are better today than they were 15 years ago. That's my experience. I don't know if that's true for every part of town, but I find that the neighborhood side streets have less outages today than they did 10, 15 years ago. But to Councilman James's point, it feels like the major thoroughfares, more outages than I can remember in recent history. Any further discussion on this topic? We'll revisit it at next City Council meeting. We're now at communications. You already heard the first one. In terms of next district meetings, District 5 is this Thursday at 5 p.m. District 2 has their Collaborate and Elevate meeting on Saturday the 15th, this coming Saturday the 15th. The next regular City Council meeting will be 1 week from tonight on March 18th at 6 p.m. We do have a special meeting at 5 p.m. for the purposes of a closed session next week. District 1, Councilwoman Rutherford wants to emphasize that there will not be a District 1 meeting in March because instead that will be a Women's History Month luncheon celebration for the district. All right. Those are some upcoming City Council related actions. From here, we'll go to closing comments. Mayor Greimel.
Thank you. I don't have anything.
Deputy Mayor Stevens.
Thank you, Council President. For once, we are actually ending fairly early, and so I just want to take a brief minute to say thank you to all of the residents. I know for some people watching and on Facebook, it may seem that sometimes these meetings are contentious or whatever, but I really want to just say thank you to the council, thank you to the residents, because as Council President just said about the streetlights, we do not know what you do not tell us. And I also want to take this opportunity to tell all of the people out there who are supportive of different items. You know, a lot of times it takes us longer to get to a yes because the council has not heard from you. So please, please, just as I am happy to have everyone come and tell us all the things that we're doing wrong, I encourage everyone to tell the council, because I don't need to hear it, but to tell the council all of the things that you would like to see happen, because if you don't tell them, they don't know. But thank you for your participation.
Deputy Clerk Starks, any communications? Okay. Councilwoman Jones.
This Saturday, as was just mentioned, but this Saturday, from noon to 1 at the 374, which is at 374 North Telegraph Road, there will be a District 2 Collaborate and Elevate meeting update. Save the date, come down, there will be refreshments, and if you can't make it, please, please, please call or text me at 248-758-3027, and you can receive the Zoom link so that you can stay connected while you're on the go. Also, I want to mention that Public Communications number 30, the next District 2 Community Advisory Meeting is on March 24th. It's Mondays, March 24th, 7 p.m. at Goldner Walsh. For more information about that meeting, you could reach out to me, but I would recommend you also reach out to Jen Burke, who is that District 2 co-chair. And that will conclude my communications.
Okay, very good. Councilman Mikhail Goodman, District 3.
Yes, I will keep it relatively quick. I am excited to announce officially that the next pullover prevention clinic will be April 6th from 1 to 5 at the Baldwin Center. Because again, as you know, I like providing services to people, and this is my favorite thing to do, fixing headlights and taillights, keeping people safe on the road, providing them food and resources, so on and so forth. I'll have more details coming soon, along with the flyer and the resources that we'll be providing, because hopefully we will have something new to provide this time. So keep your ears to the streets and keep your fingers crossed. Beyond that, the next thing is March. It has not one, but 2 District 3 meetings. Our first one for the month happened, I believe now last Monday or 2 Mondays ago. Time flies by very fast. And our regularly scheduled one will be happening as it should, which is the last Monday of the month, which this month is March 31st. So if those of you who are in District 3, our next district meeting will be on the 31st, which is a Monday. And then, again, just stay tuned for the pullover prevention clinic. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Parker, District 5.
Well, I don't have anything other than to say, but first to thank Pastor Emeritus Desiro for coming and praying with us each Tuesday. I want to ask that you would continue to pray for her as if she don't mind, her son. Her son's in hospital, so please keep him in your prayers, as well as her closest friend is in hospital. Keep them in your prayers. And I just want to thank each and every one of you for keeping me in your prayers as I went to celebrate the homegoing of my sister. And I got to spend some time with family and friends, so thank you. And just looking forward to continuing to do the work that we're elected to do. So keep one another lifted in prayer.
Thank you. Councilwoman James, District 4.
Yes, District 4's Community Council meeting will be on March 28th, 2025, Thursday evening, 6 p.m. at the Newmont Moriah International Church.
I think that's the 27th.
That was March 20. Oh my gosh, I'm looking at, you're right. March 27th, I was looking at the wrong date. Again, at Newmont Moriah International Church, 313 Walton Boulevard. Our special guest for that evening will be Pontiac City Clerk Garland Doyle, who will be talking to us about the new charter and redistricting. So we want to invite everyone to come out. Everyone is welcome, and we hope to see you then. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Pro Tem Carrington, District 6.
Yes, thank you, President McGinnis. First, I want to announce District Neighborhood Awards. So nominate a neighbor that actively participates in your neighborhood events, activities, or initiatives, one that goes out of their way to volunteer, one that always has a positive attitude. Voting ends on March the 25th, so please contact me at 248-758-3014. You can email me. wcarrington@pontiac.mi.us. So please, I got a few nominations. I know it's a lot of people across the 6th District that deserve this award. So please nominate them. Also, thank everybody for coming out for the We Care Neighborhood Association as well as the District 6 community meeting last week. One thing I want to talk about tonight, and usually on March the 11th, I'm actually spending time with my family and actually appreciating my freedom. I call it my Freedom Day. Even though next week is my birthday, 3/11 has really became my rebirth day because I celebrate my freedom. So 22 years ago was my rebirth, the day I understood that freedom was one of the Creator's most precious gifts. I lowered to the ground and felt the soil, then kissed that dirt. That morning, that dirt was sweeter than my grandmother's grits. Emotions rose up inside me, eyes watering, but smiling like my mother just handed me a new pair of Jordans. Just for a moment, it seems I saw or heard God's angels, free at last, free at last. Thank God you're free at last. I learned a tough and valuable lesson. Never take your freedom for granted. And I'm talking to this community, young people. Resist those earthly temptations of greed, lust, fast money. When planning a game, make sure it's the right game and you're on the right side. My statement to this community and all statements in all communities is never again, because I love my journey. I'm a professional at Wayne State University. I teach at 3 community colleges, and I never would have been able to do that if my community would have forgotten about me or my family. So many ask, I get a lot of people that call me, they want me to talk to their sons, their grandkids. And one of the reasons that I've been successful on this side is that when I return to my community or communities that I lived in, I asked forgiveness and I made amends to everyone that I hurt during my 20s. I also realized that I owe my community everything, not the other way around. Many times people go in and come out and they think this community owes them something. No, you owe your community something. So no one owes you but for anyone's poor life decisions. So if you come home, you come back into this community or other communities or wherever you decide to live, get involved. Get involved, give back to that community because you did take something from that community. You hurt people. And until you realize that, you won't see no happiness in your life and you won't continue to grow and nobody will believe in you. And good night.
Thank you, Pro Tem Carrington. Happy Freedom Day. Well, good evening, Pontiac. I'm Mike McGinnis, District 7 City Councilperson. I want to thank all of the attendees at our monthly Eastside Community Meeting last night. We had a full house, a packed room, and a lot of resources, updates, ideas, and feedback in the meeting. So I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. The next Eastside Community Meeting is the second Monday of every month. So that's Monday, April 14th, if my brain is working right. 7 to 9 p.m. at Prospect Missionary Baptist Church. So I really want to thank everyone that made the time last night. We have built something really strong on the east side, and I want to make sure that we continue that. Even though the district number will change next year from 7 to 6, the strength of the east side is very important, and a lot of important work still to be done in the neighborhoods and on the east side community. I want to thank council members and the community who made the time tonight. We were originally going to only have 2 meetings in March, the 4th and the 18th. This was an additional meeting, and I think it was useful because otherwise all of this business would have rolled onto the 18th, and that would have been a very oppressive night. So hopefully this makes the 18th more manageable. Thank you for all the work, research, engagement with neighbors to help inform these decisions. It's a lot on your plates. It's a lot on Pontiac's plates, but you've done excellent work to review, consider, and then render a decision. Regardless of what the decision is, it's important we keep considering the business and then keep it moving. Because if we just get hung up on 1 or 2 things, then everything else bottlenecks up and doesn't get done. So we're going to, because we cleared the plate tonight, we'll have a little bit more clarity and breathing room on the 18th, although there probably will be a substantial agenda in its own right, too. Good night. God bless you. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Support.
Moved by Councilwoman Jones, seconded by Councilman Goodman to adjourn this evening's meeting. Hearing no discussion, roll call, Deputy Clerk.
Carrington.
Good night. Yes.
Goodman.
Yes.
James.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
McGinnis.
Be safe. Yes.
Parker.
That motion carries. We stand adjourned at 9:09 p.m.